My relatives mocked me as washer girl, at 17. 1 year later, I exposed their $4.3 million scam, got their mom arrested, and took over the business. Okay Reddit, this is going to be a long one. I, 19, female, need to write this down, cause honestly, my head's been spinning with everything that's happened. Really never thought I'd be sharing my life story here, but whatever. Here goes. It all started when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. I was 14, just starting high school, thinking my biggest problem was going to be algebra or something. Dad had been feeling tired for a while, but we thought it was just work stress, you know? Then one regular Tuesday after school, Mom sat me down in our kitchen and told me he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The next 6 months were like watching a movie of someone else's life. Dad got super sick super fast. Lost all his hair, lost so much weight. His favorite Chicago Bears jersey looked like a tent on him. He tried to keep joking around, still helped me with my math homework, even when he could barely sit up. The last thing he said to me was, "Don't let your mom's cooking kill you before I get back," when they took him to the hospital for the last time. That was just so Dad. Always trying to make me laugh. He died on a Thursday. I remember because it was supposed to be pizza night. We'd always get a deep dish on Thursdays, and had been doing it since I was little. Instead, I was sitting in a hospital waiting room with those stupid flickering fluorescent lights, watching my mom cry into her phone while telling our relatives. I thought that was going to be the worst part of my life. Boy was I wrong. Mom totally lost it after Dad died. Started dating 2 months later. Said she needed to feel alive again or whatever. That's how she met Ralph. Rich guy, real estate developer type. He started coming around all the time, bringing Mom fancy gifts, taking her on weekend trips. I tried to be happy for her. I really did. Dad wouldn't want her to be sad forever, right? But then she married Ralph less than a year after Dad died. Didn't even tell me they were engaged. I found out when she told me to try on a junior bridesmaid dress she'd already bought. The wedding was at some fancy country club in Newport Beach. All of Ralph's rich friends were there, looking at us like we were some charity case Ralph had adopted. I spent most of the reception hiding in the bathroom, trying not to cry. That's when everything really changed. Mom and Ralph moved into his massive house in Newport Beach. We're talking about one of those places with a pool and a tennis court. But guess what? There wasn't room for me. Mom said I'd be more comfortable living with Dad's sister, Aunt Astrid, in Chicago. More comfortable for who, Mom? So I got shipped off to Chicago like some package nobody wanted. Aunt Astrid lives in this huge house in Lincoln Park with Uncle Marcus and my cousins, Michael, 17 male, and Rebecca, 18 female. We used to be super close when we were kids. They'd come visit every summer and we'd spend weeks making up stupid games and building blanket forts. But man, everything was different once I actually moved in. Suddenly I wasn't their fun summer cousin anymore. I was this unwanted extra person in their house. They started acting like I was taking up their space, eating their food, breathing their precious air or something. Michael would accidentally knock over my stuff all the time. Rebecca would make these little comments about how her clothes were too nice to lend me when I first got there and didn't have winter stuff. Aunt Astrid was the worst though. Made it super clear I was a burden. Started charging me rent, even though I was still in high school. Who even does that? The really messed up part. Mom just stopped calling. Like completely. She'd send money sometimes, not enough to actually cover the rent Aunt Astrid charged, but that was it. When I tried calling her, she was always too busy with her new life. Too busy at yoga. Too busy at charity events. Too busy to talk to her own kid. I'd see pictures on Facebook of her and Ralph on vacation in Europe, at fancy parties, living this whole other life where I didn't exist. She even archived all our old family photos, the ones with Dad and me. Said they didn't match her new profile aesthetic. Like I was just some old furniture that didn't go with her new decor. I started having these dreams. When I was back in our old kitchen, where everything was normal. Then I would wake up crying in this weird bedroom at Aunt Astrid's house, staring at these fancy wallpapers that cost more than my whole wardrobe. Feeling like I'd lost both parents instead of just one. So after that first month at Aunt Astrid's, she hit me with this rent increase because of property taxes or whatever. I'm like, I'm 15, but okay. Guess I need a job. That's when my cousin Rebecca, oh so helpfully, tells me about this 24-hour laundromat that's hiring in what she calls the sketchy part of Chicago. It's this run-down building, wedged between a closed-down doll store and this super sus phone repair shop that I'm pretty sure never actually repairs any phones. The owner, this old guy named Jerry, takes one look at me and goes, "You're way too young to work the midnight shift." But then I told him I could start that night and wouldn't complain about the pay, and suddenly my age wasn't such a big deal anymore. So my life became this crazy schedule that honestly still gives me anxiety thinking about it. Midnight to 6 a.m. at the laundromat, where I had to deal with the weirdest people you can imagine. The worst part wasn't even the weird customers, it was how cold that place got. The heating barely worked, and Chicago winters are no joke. I'd wear like 3 hoodies just to survive my shift. Never put that in the job description, did they? But one job wasn't enough to cover Aunt Astrid's rent, plus basic stuff like, food and school supplies. So I also started working at this gas station called Quick Stop from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is where my dear cousins decided to make my life extra fun. See, Quick Stop was right by their fancy private school, where tuition probably cost more than I made in a year. Michael and his friends thought it was hilarious to come in during my shifts and just trash the place. They'd knock over the chip displays I just organized, spill their Slurpees, accidentally all over the floor, leave opened bags of beef jerky everywhere. Rebecca was worse though. She was sneakier about it. She'd come in with her cheerleader friends, and they'd do this thing where they'd talk super loud about me like I wasn't there. "Oh my God, can you imagine having to work here? Like I'd literally die." Or, "Ew, look at her uniform. It's so polyester." Then they'd take these awful pictures of me trying to clean up their messes and post them on their social media. The school stuff got bad too. I was going to the public high school nearby, and somehow Rebecca made sure everyone there knew about my jobs. People started leaving quarters on my desk for laundry. Someone stuck a name tag on my locker that said "Washer Girl." Real creative, guys. Thanks. I was basically sleeping through all my classes, 'cause who can stay awake when you're working from midnight to 6 a.m., trying to do homework from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., then working again from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.? My grades started dropping. Teachers kept asking if everything was okay at home. I just told them I was adjusting to the move. The only good thing about the laundromat job was this homeless guy named Pete, who'd come in most nights. He wasn't like the other weird customers. He showed me how to fix the quarter machine when it got stuck, and taught me which customers were okay to let slide when they were a quarter short. One night Pete tells me, "Kid, you're living life on expert mode right now." Made me laugh for the first time in weeks. He disappeared when winter hit. I still worry about what happened to him sometimes. Uncle Marcus owned the building, but I never saw him there. He had this property management company handle everything. Sometimes I'd see these fancy cars driving real slow late at night. Later found out he'd send people to check on the place. Guess he was watching me more than I knew. Meanwhile, Mom's sending these random texts like, "Hope you're doing well," but never actually picking up when I called her. Instagram was full of pictures from yacht parties and charity galas. Must be nice having so much time for charity when your own kid's working 2 jobs to survive. Aunt Astrid kept finding reasons to raise the rent. Utilities went up. HOA fees increased. "Your room is prime real estate." Like, yeah, I'm sure that converted storage room in the basement with the weird mushrooms growing in the corner is really prime Chicago real estate. I started hiding cash in this old teddy bear Dad gave me before he died. Had this whole plan that once I saved enough I'd get my own place. But every time I got close to a decent amount, something would come up. School fees, winter boots when my old ones fell apart. That time Michael accidentally backed his car into mine, and I had to pay for repairs myself. But the final straw came one day when I came home from my gas station shift, and found my room completely torn apart. The bear was ripped open. Stuffing everywhere. And guess what? All my savings. Gone. Rebecca swore she was just cleaning and had no idea about any money. Yeah, right. That same week, Aunt Astrid comes down to my basement room and tells me rent's going up again. Not just a little, we're talking double. Said something about property values in the area increasing. I did the math and realized even with both jobs I couldn't afford it anymore. But here's the thing. I'd been taking classes at this community college nearby. Nothing fancy. Just basic requirements, trying to get ahead while still in high school. The counselor there said I could maybe get financial aid if I took more classes. That meant I had to make a choice. Keep paying Aunt Astrid's crazy rent, or try to get an education. So I picked education. Didn't really have a plan, I just knew I couldn't stay there anymore. Packed up what could fit in my Toyota. The car had these weird rust spots all over it, and the heat only worked if you kicked the dashboard in exactly the right spot. But it was mine. First night sleeping in that car was actually kind of peaceful. Parked behind the laundromat. Used my work keys to sneak in and use the bathroom. Had this whole setup. Reclined the driver's seat all the way back. Used my work backpack as a pillow. Layered like 5 blankets I'd borrowed from the lost and found box. Thought to myself, this isn't so bad. Then winter hit. Real Chicago winter. The kind where your spit freezes before it hits the ground. My car's battery started dying because of the cold, so I couldn't run the heat much. The hardest part wasn't even the cold, or the lack of sleep. It was trying to look normal at school. Like try explaining to your chemistry teacher why your homework's all wrinkled and smells like laundry detergent, or why you're wearing the same 3 outfits over and over. The school counselor kept trying to talk to me, but what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I live in my car, but don't worry, it's parked in a really nice alley. Then my dear cousin Michael decided to play detective. Guess he got suspicious about why I wasn't around the house anymore. Followed me one night after my laundromat shift. Next day, their TikTok had this whole video series called, My Homeless Cousin, a Documentary. They filmed everything. My frost-covered windows, me trying to study using the light from the laundromat sign. Even catching me changing clothes in the back seat once. The videos went viral in their rich kid circle. People started driving by the laundromat at night, honking their horns, throwing stuff at my car. The cops started coming around more too. Every couple of nights, there'd be a knock on my window. Can't sleep here, miss. So I'd drive around until they left, then come back. Spent a lot of nights just driving in circles, watching my gas gauge get lower and lower, praying I'd have enough to get to work the next day. You know what's weird though? I started noticing this black SUV parked across the street some nights. Always in a different spot, but always there. Tinted windows, engine running. First I thought it was cops or maybe some creep, but they never bothered me. Just sat there like they were watching. The temperature dropped to -5 degrees Fahrenheit one night. The kind of cold that makes your eyes hurt. My car wouldn't start. The phone was dead, and the laundromat was closed for repairs. Thought, well, this is it. This is how I die. They're going to find me frozen like those rats in the alley. Wrapped myself in every piece of clothing I owned and tried to think warm thoughts. That's when someone knocked on my window. I looked up, and there's Uncle Marcus, standing in the snow like it's totally normal to be out at 2 a.m. in Arctic temperatures. He just goes, I think we need to talk. Turns out the black SUV, that was his. He'd been watching me through the laundromat security cameras for weeks, sending people to check on me. Said he wanted to see what I was made of. Who does that kind of messed up test? But honestly, at that point I was too cold to care about his weird teaching methods. So there I was, basically turning into a human popsicle in my car. And Uncle Marcus is just standing there in his expensive wool coat, looking at me through the window. I'm thinking he's going to lecture me or call the cops or something. Instead he says, my office has better heating. Like this is some totally normal situation. His office was this small room above the laundromat I'd never been in before. Turns out he had this whole private space up there. Desk, mini fridge, coffee maker, even a little bathroom. While I'm defrosting my fingers around this cup of actually good coffee, he just sits there watching me like he's trying to solve a puzzle. Finally he goes, you know, your dad and I used to sleep in a car too. Which, what? I almost dropped my coffee. See, I'd always known Uncle Marcus as this crazy rich real estate guy who wore suits that probably cost more than my car. But then he starts telling me this story I never knew. Apparently he and my dad grew up super poor. Like their mom worked 3 jobs, and they still couldn't afford rent most months, kinda poor. Uncle Marcus pulls out his phone and shows me this ancient photo of 2 skinny teenagers sitting in a van, eating beans straight from the can. That's your dad on the left, he says. And yeah, same goofy smile I remembered, just on a much younger face. The whole time he's telling me this story, I'm sitting there trying to process it. Like how did they go from homeless teenagers to, well, this? That's when he tells me about the laundromat. The original owner used to let them hang out inside during really cold nights. They'd help him fix machines, clean up, whatever needed doing. When the owner got sick, he offered to sell them the place. Dad had just started college on a scholarship, but Uncle Marcus had been working construction and saving every penny. So the owner sold it to him for basically nothing. That was his first property. Then he starts pulling out all these old documents from his desk. Property deeds, contracts, business plans, all with my dad's notes in the margins. When your dad got sick, Uncle Marcus continues, he made me promise 2 things. First, to look out for you. Second, to make sure you learn how to look out for yourself. Then he gives me this look and goes, gotta say, you're doing better at the second part than I expected. I'm sitting there trying not to cry. Failing pretty badly at it, to be honest, when he drops the real surprise. Turns out he owns like half the block around the laundromat now. Apartment buildings, stores, even that sketchy phone repair place. And he's been watching me through the security cameras this whole time, sending his guys in the SUV to keep an eye on me. You worked 2 jobs without complaining, kept your grades up, found ways to survive that most people wouldn't think of. Even kept that laundromat running better than the manager I hired. He actually smiled when he said that last part. Jerry told me you fixed the quarter machine. Took my maintenance guy 3 tries to figure that out. That's when he pulls out this key. Says it's for the apartment above his office, a whole studio apartment I didn't even know existed. He told me it's mine. No rent, as long as I keep working at the laundromat and keep my grades up. I tried to say no, like this felt too much like charity or something. But he shut that down real quick. This isn't charity. This is an investment. You've got your father's brains. And your own kind of determination. I'm investing in that. Then he shows me this whole file he's kept. Copies of my school records. Work reports from Jerry. Even screenshots of those awful TikToks Michael and Rebecca made. They thought they were shaming you, he says. All I saw was someone who refused to break. It's weird, you know? All this time I thought he was this cold rich guy who didn't care. Who let his wife treat me like garbage. Turns out he was testing me. Messed up way to do it, yeah. But I kind of get it now. He wanted to see if I had what my dad had. That thing that makes you keep going when everything's against you. Before I left his office that night, he said something else about Dad. Told me about their last conversation when Dad was in the hospital. Dad made him swear not to just hand me everything. Said I needed to learn to be strong on my own first. But Uncle Marcus added, he also said to know when enough was enough. And kid, you've more than proved yourself. I spent that night in a real bed for the first time in months. The apartment wasn't fancy, just 1 room with a kitchenette and bathroom, but it was warm, clean, safe. But the morning after Uncle Marcus gave me the apartment, I woke up to my phone blowing up with texts from Aunt Astrid. Turns out Michael had driven by the laundromat on his way to school and saw me walking down from the upstairs apartment. He took pictures, because of course he did. Aunt Astrid shows up at the laundromat during my shift, wearing her designer workout clothes and looking like she's about to explode. Starts screaming about how I'm trying to steal her husband, how I've been seducing him or whatever. Like, yeah, Aunt Astrid, I totally seduced him by being homeless and fixing washing machines. Super sexy. The customers were all staring, and this one old lady who comes in every Wednesday to wash her cat's blankets, actually started recording the whole thing on her phone. Aunt Astrid saying all this crazy stuff about how she always knew I was trouble. How I'm just like my mother, trying to take advantage of rich men. I'm just standing there with a mop in my hand, wearing my gross work uniform, thinking, is this really happening right now? Then Jerry comes out from the back room and tells Aunt Astrid she needs to leave before he calls the cops. She leaves, but not before telling me, this isn't over. That night, I heard Astrid and Uncle Marcus having this huge fight upstairs in his office. Their voices were muffled, but I could make out Aunt Astrid screaming about that girl, and how dare you. I felt so ashamed, like I'd ruined their marriage or something. Later Aunt Astrid slept at her friend's house that night. When I saw Uncle Marcus the next morning, he had dark circles under his eyes, and just gave me this tired nod. But the weird thing is that my mom suddenly started calling me, for the first time in months, acting all concerned. Honey, I'm hearing some disturbing things. Like she had any right to be concerned after abandoning me. I'm sure someone, probably Rebecca, sent her the rumors. Then she and Ralph show up at my apartment unannounced. Mom's wearing one of her new designer outfits. Her eyes scan my tiny studio apartment. "Oh honey," she says. But it sounds more calculating than concerned. "This is quaint." Ralph stays by the door like he's afraid poverty might be contagious. "What are you doing here?" I asked, not offering them a seat. There's nowhere to sit anyway, unless they want to join me on my unmade bed. Mom starts pacing my tiny space. "We've been hearing things about you and your Uncle Marcus." The way she says it makes something twist in my stomach. "What about Uncle Marcus?" "Come on, sweetie," she tries for a conspiratorial smile. "I know what you're doing. It's clever, really. I would have never thought of it at your age." "Thought of what?" "Getting close to Marcus like this. Working in his business, playing the poor abandoned niece. I'm sure he's promised you quite a bit." The realization hits me like a slap. "You think I'm trying to get his money? Well, aren't you? Living in this place, working in that laundromat, spending all that time with him. It's obvious what you're doing." I laugh, and it comes out harsh. "Obvious to who? You? The woman who shipped me off to Chicago and forgot about me? That's not fair." "No, you know what's not fair. You disappeared when Dad died. You married Ralph. What, 10 months later? Send me to Aunt Astrid like I was some old furniture that didn't match your new decor." "I was grieving," she says. But she's looking at her expensive watch, not at me. "You were upgrading," I snapped back. "Trading up for a fancier life with your real estate husband and your charity galas. And now what? You're worried I might get some of Uncle Marcus's money before you do?" Ralph steps forward then, all fake authority. "Now listen here, young lady. Your mother and I are concerned about your welfare." "My welfare?" The laugh bubbles up again, uglier this time. "Where was this concern when Aunt Astrid was charging me rent at 15? When I was working 2 jobs and sleeping in my car?" Mom waves her hand dismissively. "Don't be dramatic. Astrid would never." "Check my hospital records from when I got bronchitis sleeping in that car. Check the pay stubs from the gas station and the laundromat. Check the rent receipts Astrid made me keep." "Oh wait, you can't. You were too busy posting pictures from your yacht parties to even answer my calls." "That's ancient history," Mom says. But she's fidgeting with her wedding ring. Dad's wedding ring that she had upgraded with bigger diamonds. "We're here to help now. Ralph has a friend who runs this wonderful boarding school in Switzerland." Now you want to help?" My voice rises. "Or did you just find out Uncle Marcus is teaching me about the business? Worried I might actually learn something? Get a piece of what you think should be yours?" Mom's face changes then. Gets harder. Drops the concerned mother act completely. "Marcus was your father's brother. Anything of his should go to me. His wife, ex-wife I correct, who remarried less than a year after he died. I deserve," she starts, but I cut her off. "You deserve it? Dad helped build this business. He and Uncle Marcus started with nothing, while you were busy planning charity galas with Ralph. I'm learning how to fix washing machines and manage books, and actually help people, just like Dad did." "Your father was a teacher," she spits out. "He played around with Marcus's business like it was some hobby." "Get out." I point to the door. "Go back to your perfect life with your perfect husband. Go plan another charity gala. Go archive some more family photos because they don't match your aesthetic. Just get out of my apartment." Ralph tries one more time. "Now see here." "No, you see here." I'm surprised by how steady my voice is now. "I know exactly why you're both here. You heard I was working with Uncle Marcus and got scared. Scared I might actually earn something you think should be yours. But here's the thing. I'm not you. I'm not here for anyone's money. I'm here because Uncle Marcus gave me a chance when you threw me away." Mom's face goes red. "How dare you? How dare I? How dare you come here pretending to care about my welfare, when all you care about is your bank account?" I walk to the door and open it. "By the way, Mom, that pantsuit makes you look desperate." They leave. Mom muttered something about ingratitude, and Ralph was already on his phone. I close the door and slide down against it, shaking. Through the thin walls I hear Mom's voice. "I told you this would happen. That little gold digger is going to try to take everything." So after the whole drama with Mom and Ralph showing up, things got weirdly quiet for like a week. I was at work one night when Michael came running into the laundromat. He looked scared. Turns out he was using Aunt Astrid's iPad. A message popped up from someone saved as D that just said, "Everything's ready for next week. Astrid baby, we're finally going to be free." Michael, being the nosy kid he is, opened the messages. Guess Aunt Astrid never logged out of her accounts on that iPad. Y'all. The D was Ralph. As in my dad Ralph. As in my mom's husband Ralph. They'd been texting for months. Michael found all these emails too. Plans for them to take a bunch of money from Uncle Marcus's business and run away together. They'd been planning it for almost a year. Every time Aunt Astrid raised my rent, that money went straight into some secret account. Michael showed up because he didn't know what to do. For the first time in his life, this kid who'd made fun of me for being poor, was realizing his mom was about to steal everything, and leave him behind. I called Uncle Marcus. Not going to lie. Part of me wanted to just let everything blow up after how they treated me. Would have been some nice karma. Uncle Marcus came down to the laundromat right away. Michael was still shaking when he showed Uncle Marcus all the messages. I've never seen Uncle Marcus look so blank. Like his face just shut down. He made some calls. Turns out his lawyer had been suspicious about some business accounts for a while. The numbers weren't adding up. But Aunt Astrid handled all the paperwork. Uncle Marcus trusted her with everything, so nobody looked too close. The lawyer looked through every account, every transaction. Know how much they were planning to steal? $4.3 million. They'd already moved almost $1 million to offshore accounts. All those times Aunt Astrid complained about property taxes and utility bills? She was stealing that money too. But the real blow. Some of that money came from Michael and Rebecca's college funds. Their own mom was stealing their future to run away with my stepdad. Uncle Marcus had this whole team of lawyers and accountants come in. They found all these fake companies Aunt Astrid had set up. She'd write checks to these companies for maintenance or supplies, but the money just went to more secret accounts. While all this was happening, Aunt Astrid was acting totally normal. Still posting her workout selfies on Instagram, still running her PTA meetings, still pretending to be this perfect mom. Ralph was the same, taking my mom to charity events, buying her expensive stuff, playing the devoted husband. The lawyers said we needed to wait, get more evidence before confronting them. But Rebecca found everything on the iPad too. She came to my apartment one night, mascara all over her face from crying, asking if she could stay with me. First time in her life she didn't have a perfect place to sleep. It was weird having her there. This girl who'd made fun of me for being homeless was now basically homeless herself. She couldn't stand being in the same house as Aunt Astrid after learning everything. She slept on my tiny futon, used my cheap shampoo, wore my Target clothes, kept saying sorry for how she treated me. But honestly, watching her realize money doesn't make you a good person was enough. Uncle Marcus had his IT guys tracking all the accounts, watching every transaction. The plan was to catch them right before they tried to run, but Aunt Astrid must have figured out something was up because she started moving money faster. The next morning was Michael's 18th birthday party. Aunt Astrid had planned this huge thing at their house, hired a DJ, catering, even got some mini golf set up in the backyard. She was acting extra nice to everyone, probably because she thought it was her last weekend there. Uncle Marcus decided that was when we'd confront them. Have all the evidence ready, get everybody in one place. I remember Rebecca asking if we should warn my mom first, but Uncle Marcus said no. We needed to see her genuine reaction to know if she was involved. The morning of Michael's birthday party was weird. Like super weird. Aunt Astrid's running around arranging centerpieces and checking the catering while literally planning to disappear with my stepdad the next day. Rebecca and I were helping set up, both knowing everything was about to explode, trying to act normal. Michael looked like he was going to throw up every time his mom hugged him. Uncle Marcus had this whole plan. His lawyer would show up unexpectedly with some urgent paperwork during the party. They'd gather everyone in the living room and then drop all the evidence. The FBI was actually waiting nearby. Yeah, actual FBI agents. Because apparently stealing millions from legitimate businesses while planning to flee the country is kind of their thing. My mom showed up early, all excited about the party. She hadn't talked to me since the whole Switzerland boarding school thing, but she was acting like everything was fine. Ralph came in behind her carrying this huge wrapped present. Found out later it was some fancy gaming system. Guess he was trying to buy Michael's silence or something. The party started at 2 p.m. All these rich kids from Michael's school showing up in BMWs and Mercedes their parents bought them. The DJ's playing music, people are swimming in the pool, Everything looks completely normal, except Rebecca, Michael and I are just watching Aunt Astrid and Ralph, who keep checking their phones and whispering to each other. Around 4 p.m. the lawyer showed up. He's carrying this thick folder and looking super serious. Aunt Astrid's face when she saw him. I wish I had a picture. She knew. They gathered everyone in the living room. Some of Michael's friends tried to stay, but Uncle Marcus was like, "Family only," in this voice that made them leave real quick. My mom was complaining about interrupting the party. But then the lawyer started laying out documents on the coffee table. Bank statements, emails, transfer records, pictures of Aunt Astrid and Ralph together from some private investigator. With each paper he put down, the room got quieter. Then he played a recording. Aunt Astrid and Ralph talking about their plans, laughing about how stupid everyone was for not noticing. My mom stopped breathing when she heard Ralph's voice. Just straight up froze. Aunt Astrid tried to say the recording was fake, but then Uncle Marcus pulled out her iPad, the one Michael found the messages on, and started reading their texts out loud. Y'all, the screaming that happened next. Mom launched herself at Ralph, started hitting him with her purse, which had like a million metal things in it, BTW. Aunt Astrid tried to run for the door, but the FBI guys were already there. Some agent lady just goes, "Astrid Anderson, you're under arrest for wire fraud and embezzlement." They took them both away in handcuffs. Ralph kept yelling about how he had a good explanation. Aunt Astrid was crying about how weed ruined her life. But you know what the worst part was? Neither of them even looked at their kids. Like your son's 18th birthday party just got turned into a crime scene, and you can't even say sorry? Mom had a complete breakdown, like full-on hysterics. Turns out Ralph had been using her money too. She'd signed a bunch of papers without reading them, because she trusted him, she said, and he'd basically stolen everything she had left from Dad's life insurance. The next few weeks were crazy. The FBI investigation found even more stuff. Aunt Astrid and Ralph had been planning this for over a year. They had fake passports, offshore accounts, this whole secret life ready to go. They'd stolen from pretty much everyone, the business, the kids' college funds, even charity money from those fancy events they were always going to. While all this was happening, Uncle Marcus was watching how everyone handled it. Rebecca and Michael basically moved into my tiny apartment. We had this whole system. Michael slept on the futon, Rebecca shared my bed, and we all shared one bathroom. Which was interesting. They both got jobs at the laundromat. Rebecca's actually really good with customers when she's not being mean to them. And Michael? Kids have a talent for fixing machines. He figured out this problem with the industrial dryer that even the repair guy couldn't fix. Mom went to rehab. Not for drugs or anything, just to deal with everything. She'd been so focused on looking perfect, having the perfect rich life, that she'd ignored all the red flags about Ralph. Uncle Marcus really stepped up. He's been teaching us all about the business. Says he wants us, me, Rebecca, and Michael, to run it together someday. We each have different strengths. I'm good with numbers, like my dad was. Rebecca's great with people when she tries, and Michael's got this weird genius thing with machines. Last week we all went to visit Dad's grave. First time we'd been there together. Uncle Marcus told us more stories about him, about how he'd helped build this whole business while still being a teacher, because he believed in helping people. Aunt Astrid and Ralph are in jail now. Turns out stealing millions and planning to flee the country is kind of illegal. They're both trying to blame each other, which would be funny if it wasn't so sad. Michael and Rebecca still struggle with it. Like, imagine finding out your mom cared more about running away with someone else's husband than she did about you. But you know what's weird? We're actually better now. Like, all of us. Mom's dealing with her issues instead of hiding them behind designer sunglasses. Rebecca and Michael learned what it's like to actually work for things. I learned that sometimes letting people help you isn't a weakness. Sometimes I look around at my life now and can't believe how different everything is from a year ago. Like, I'm sitting here in the laundromat office, my office now. I manage the place. And it hits me. Although I lost my family, I'm doing much better now. TLDR. Found out aunt and stepdad were secret lovers planning to steal millions and run away. They got arrested at a birthday party. Mom had a breakdown, went to rehab. Cousins learned humility through laundry. And we all somehow became a real family. Also, Dad was playing 4D chess from beyond the grave. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. My aunt tried selling my late mom's $430,000 house while I lived in it. So I made her regret it, by hiring a lawyer, and it to court. Original post. So this just happened a few weeks ago and I'm still kind of stunned. A little background before we get into the absolute insanity that was my aunt trying to steal my home out from under me. Yes, my literal home. Buckle up. I, 23F, grew up in a quiet town in Oregon in a cozy 2-story house that my mom bought when I was 5. It wasn't huge, but it had this crooked fence, a lemon tree that never grew lemons, and the best kitchen window view of the valley. My dad passed away when I was 6, car accident, and it was just me and my mom after that. She was my best friend, my entire emotional support system, and honestly the reason I'm as stable as I am today. She passed away from cancer about 1.5 years ago. Still hurts to say that out loud. But before she died, she made it crystal clear. This house would be mine. She had the will written up properly, notarized, filed. No questions. She even walked me through it when she first got sick. So no one tries anything stupid, she said. Well, someone tried something extremely stupid. Janice is my mom's older sister. If passive-aggressive narcissist were a profession, she'd be CEO. She always had this thing about being the oldest, like it gave her some divine right to run the show. My mom used to say, Janice lives in a world where everyone owes her rent. When my mom passed, Janice showed up at the funeral wearing sunglasses indoors, full black lace, and a dramatic story about how they were just starting to reconnect. Please. My mom hadn't spoken to her more than twice in the last 3 years, and both times were because Janice randomly showed up at her chemo appointments like some sad attempt at penance. Anyway, after the funeral, I moved back into the house. I'd been living in a campus apartment, but dropped out for a semester to handle estate stuff and breathe. It was quiet. Sad. But it was mine. I worked at a nearby bookstore, paid the bills, and maintained the garden the best I could. Slowly I started healing. Until Janice came back. 3 months ago I started getting weird mail. Letters addressed to current resident with things like, "We're interested in buying your property," or "Quick sale, no hassle." Stuff I assumed was just normal real estate spam. But then I got a packet from some place called Keller Cromwell Holdings, with my address listed as under negotiation. And stapled to the back? A goddamn signed agreement with Janice's name on it. She was trying to sell my house. I honestly thought it was a scam. I even called the number listed on the paperwork pretending to be a buyer. Some real estate assistant answered and said Janice was the point of contact, and that she had inherited the property through family transfer. Y'all. First saw. Read. I pulled out the will. The original one. It clearly says the house was left solely to me, with Janice explicitly excluded as a beneficiary, due to a history of exploitative behavior. I'm not kidding. That's literally what it says. My mom was cold with the pen, so I did what every modern woman raised on Reddit and petty justice does. I called my mom's lawyer. He still remembered her and immediately scheduled a meeting. I brought everything. The mail, the signed agreement, the will. He read it, raised an eyebrow and said, "Oh. She's dumber than I thought." Turns out Janice had forged a family transfer claim using a fake addendum to the will, dated after my mom's death. Let me say that again. After my mom's death. This woman used a Word template, printed it on cheap legal paper, and tried to pass it off as a legitimate document. She even signed it as my mom, with a pen color that didn't match the original will ink, and using the wrong last name. My mom had legally changed it back to her maiden name after my dad died. Janice forgot that part. Instead of calling her out, I decided to wait. See, the house wasn't just emotionally mine, it was legally and publicly mine. The title transfer had been done. But Janice clearly hadn't bothered checking with the county clerk. She probably thought I was some grieving kid she could steamroll over and that the dumb niece wouldn't know how to respond. She had no idea I was preparing a legal trap. She showed up one Sunday morning with a man in khakis and a clipboard. She didn't even knock. I was on the porch, watering plants, and she just waltzed up like she owned the place. "Janice. We're just doing a quick walkthrough," Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Me. Excuse me? Janice, smiling like a psychopath. Oh honey, don't worry, I'm negotiating a good deal. You'll get your share. Your share. In my house. The clipboard guy looked uncomfortable. Janice said you were a tenant. I handed him my ID and said, I'm not a tenant, I'm the owner. And if you don't leave my property in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the cops for trespassing. He left. Fast. Janice, though, stood her ground. Janice. You're making a mistake, kid. Your mother would have wanted us to share the house. You don't even have the capacity to manage it. I said, you're right. She would have wanted to share, with people who treated her with respect. That doesn't include you. She stormed off, muttering about legal action, and how this isn't over. 2 days later, I got served with a cease and desist letter from her lawyer cousin, who I later found out specializes in DUI cases in Nevada, LMAO. He claimed wrongful occupancy and demanded I vacate the home or face a civil suit. My lawyer laughed. We sent a certified letter back with the original will, property deed, and a reminder that filing fraudulent documents is a felony. He ghosted us after that. But I wasn't done. Update 1. My aunt tried to sell my house. So I didn't expect this story to blow up the way it did. Thank you to everyone who commented, messaged, and shared legal memes with me. You guys are the reason I didn't second guess myself when I walked straight into full petty mode. Anyway, let's talk about what happened after Janice brought in her clipboard clown and tried to negotiate a good deal on my dead mom's house. Spoiler alert, things got wild. After the whole porch invasion, I realized I had an opportunity to go full lawful petty. I didn't just want to shut her down, I wanted it to sting. Like, cry in the car sting. So I went to the county records office, took a half day off work, wore my best I'm the main character hoodie, and printed out every single document related to the house. Original title transfer will with notarization stamp, the trust paperwork. And my personal favorite, the notice of intent to sell document. Janice filed with Keller Cromwell Holdings using a forged signature and an invalid claim of heirship. I brought them to my lawyer, who immediately said, "Oh, this is better than expected." Turns out filing forged real estate paperwork with the intention to profit from someone else's property? Yeah, that's fraud. Potentially a Class C felony in Oregon. Now Janice had been trying to sell the house quietly. The real estate firm was shady, but technically legit. So I wrote a little email. BCC'd every agent at the brokerage, included PDFs of all the legal documents, and a note that said, "Hi, it's come to my attention that a sale is being negotiated on my legally owned property without my consent. The woman you've been speaking to, Janice, redacted, has no legal claim to the home, and any transaction will be considered fraudulent. I've attached full proof of ownership and a scanned affidavit from my lawyer. If any further action is taken on this listing, I'll be pursuing criminal charges. Kindly, the actual owner." Within 24 hours, I got an apologetic email from the firm's legal team saying they had dropped Janice as a client. That wasn't even the best part. They sent her a formal cease and desist. I know. Never feed the trolls. But I needed to hit Janice where it hurt. And where does a 50-something passive-aggressive narcissist live emotionally? Facebook. She had already started spinning her version of events online. My niece is confused. My sister would have wanted us to share. Grieving kids shouldn't handle real estate. Blah blah victim narrative. So I took a screenshot of her post. Then I posted a comment thread beneath it with a screenshot of the title deed with my name. A copy of the will where my mom excluded her by name. And a simple caption that read, "Mom didn't want you near the house when she was alive. Why would she want you in it now?" Y'all. It blew upper. Her post went from 38 likes to absolute silence. Her Wynant friends stopped commenting. Her MLM girlies untagged her from Boss Babe photos. And her Bible study group leader actually liked my comment. Turns out forged documents don't just magically disappear. My lawyer, shout out to Shelby the legal queen, had forwarded everything to the local district clerk's office. And someone there took it very seriously. Enter Investigator Cardenas. He called me personally, asked for the originals, said there were Discrepancies that warranted escalation. I handed over the forged document Janice submitted, and he whistled when he saw the signature. Why? Because she misspelled my mom's middle name on her own fake will. Imagine being that lazy and that bold. Okay, so this part wasn't planned. My friend Jen works for a local news station, small-time segment, mostly feel-good stuff. She saw my Facebook post and messaged me. Want to tell your story? This stuff happens more than people think. I said yes. We filmed a short piece. Local woman fights back against family fraud after mother's death. I wore the same hoodie I confronted Janice in. Jen blurred the addresses and names, but the story was unmistakably ours. The best part? The segment aired on the same night Janice was hosting a virtual grief healing circle on Zoom. Multiple people messaged her about the story in real time. She rage quit the call. After the news story aired, Janice tried one last move. She emailed me personally. It started with, "You didn't have to humiliate me like that." Oh yes I did. Then she begged me not to press charges, said she was confused and acting out of grief, and wanted to keep the house in the family. I forwarded the email to investigator Cardenas. He thanked me and said it would be very helpful. Haven't heard from Janice since. But according to my cousin, her son, she's planning to move somewhere with better energy. Which I assume means a 2-bedroom apartment with no porch and no lemon tree. Final update. My aunt tried to sell my house. Now she can't even rent one. Hey Reddit. I didn't think this story would stretch into a trilogy, but apparently karma moves in chapters. Since so many of you asked for closure, and because the final domino just fell, here's the conclusion to the story of how my aunt tried to steal the home my mom left me, and how I made sure she lost everything but her fake designer bags. Spoiler alert. I'm writing this from the porch. The lemon tree is finally blooming. And yes, Janice is gone. Roughly 3 weeks after I exposed Janice's forged documents and shut down her little family transfer fantasy, I got a call from investigator Cardenas. He didn't sound like he was just following up. He sounded pleased. The district attorney had reviewed everything. The will, the house deed, the forged documents, the messages, even the real estate listing paperwork she filed using my dead mother's name, incorrectly, I might add. She used mom's married name, even though she legally changed it back to her maiden name 10 years ago. Amateur hour. And with that, they officially filed charges. Forgery of legal documents. Filing false real estate claims, attempted property fraud. Each one carries its own weight, but together, the DA's office saw a pattern of malicious and deceptive intent. Janice was given a court date. Her name was posted on the public docket. I didn't have to lift a finger after that. The law was doing its thing. All I did was watch it unfold, like front row seats to the downfall of a woman who thought she could outsmart both blood and paper. About a week before her court date, Janice sent me an email. The subject line was, "We need to talk, please." I shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity always gets the best of me. Inside she rambled for 5 paragraphs. Started with, "You didn't have to humiliate me like this." Then spiraled into gaslighting. "I was just trying to keep the house in the family. You're too young to understand legacy. Your mother and I made peace before she died. You weren't there." Oh, but I was there. Every step of my mom's last months. Every appointment. Every chemo session. Every quiet moment she cried into my shoulder and said, "Please don't let her near this house when I'm gone." So no, Janice. You don't get to rewrite history. Not in my inbox. I didn't respond. I forwarded the email to investigator Cardenas. He replied with a simple, "Thank you. This supports the timeline and demonstrates clear intent." Mic drop. Remember how I did that segment for a small local station? Turns out someone from Janice's wine club saw it. Word got around. Janice's MLM team started backing away. Her group chat got quiet. She was removed as the admin of her grief support Facebook page. And when she showed up to her women's prayer brunch, someone had swapped out her seat marker with one that said, Jezebel. My cousin, her son, told me she came home crying and threatened to sue the church for defamation. He reminded her that's not how church works. She then tried to move in with him and his wife. Lasted less than 48 hours. She complained about the lighting, demanded they let her use their Netflix, and told their 3-year-old not to touch her vintage purse. which is just a peeling Coach bag she got from a thrift shop. They dropped her off at a motel and blocked her number. After getting kicked out of her lake house, a friend's summer home she was squatting in for a year, Janice tried to float between acquaintances. But no one wanted to touch a woman facing charges for property fraud. She ended up renting a single room above a laundromat in a strip mall an hour outside town. I know this because she complained on her Facebook before deleting the whole account. She now shares a bathroom with 2 chain smokers and a guy named Todd who sells essential oils and bootleg DVDs. Not that I'm keeping tabs. I totally am. Peace. Glorious, uninterrupted peace. The porch is clean. The passive-aggressive sticky notes are gone. The scent of fake lavender candles has been replaced by fresh air and a single eucalyptus diffuser that I picked. I turned Janice's old guest room into a reading nook, painted it sage green, put in a comfy armchair, added shelves for all the books I've been meaning to read. Hung a neon sign that says, "This house belongs to me." And the best part? The attic. While organizing boxes, I found an old shoebox tucked behind a beam. Inside, a stack of photos, a tiny ceramic owl I made in 3rd grade, and a letter. For Ruby, when you're ready. It was my mom's handwriting, faded but clear. She talked about how proud she was of me, how she knew Janice might come circling like a vulture, how she put everything in my name so I'd never have to fight to keep what was already mine. She wrote about the garden, the lemon tree, and how, even if I ever felt alone, the house would always be a piece of her, rooted, standing, and watching over me. The last line. "Don't let anyone make you small in the place you were born to grow," I cried. The ugly kind of cry. The healing kind. And then I folded the letter, framed it, and put it right above the reading chair. So I see it every day. We're not close. He and my mom split when I was 10, and he moved to Arizona with his new wife. But he saw the news segment, called me out of the blue, said, "Your mom would be proud. I am too. Sorry I wasn't around more." Then he Venmo'd me $500 with a note, for porch lights or revenge snacks. I used it to buy a standing lamp for the reading room, and an espresso machine. Felt like a good combo. Janice took a plea deal. 2 years probation, $7,500 fine, mandatory counseling for impulse control and deceitful behavior. Public apology to me, which I didn't require, but it was the judge's condition. She didn't look at me in court. But I looked right at her. And I smiled. The lemon tree is blooming for the first time in 6 years. The porch feels bigger. The house feels warmer. And I feel lighter. No more pretending. No more walking on eggshells. Just peace, books, coffee, and the quiet strength of a girl who stood her ground, and kept the ground under her feet. If you're going through something similar, please know, you are not powerless. Paper trails, truth, and a calm sense of self go a long way. And if you're lucky, Reddit will have your back too. Thanks for following the saga. I've got a life to live now, in my house. And Janice. Well, last I heard, she's selling fake crystals on Etsy under the name Healing Empress 43. So, I think we both ended up exactly where we belong. Thanks for watching and being part of the drama. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a wild news story. Am I the asshole for charging my friend $700 after she demanded that my free wedding cake didn't count as a gift? Now everyone's furious. I, 34F, have a friend, who I'll call Mary, 33F, who is getting married in 2 weeks. She and I have been friends for several years, and I was excited when she asked me if I could make her cake. I don't normally do cakes anymore for people outside of family and friends as I'm currently pregnant, have 1-year-old, and am currently pursuing another master's degree in education administration so I can be a school principal because teaching is a dead end without an admin license, unfortunately. At the time when she asked, I was also teaching full-time and finishing up a different master's program. Anyway, I agreed to make this cake over a year ago. I told Mary when she offered to pay that I would do it for free as my wedding gift to her. I distinctly said wedding gift. She accepted, and we started planning the design. Mary wanted a 4-tier cake with each tier a different flavor: white, chocolate, yellow, lemon, and several sugar flowers and fondant decorations, as well as 3 different flavored buttercreams. It was a lot, but since she is having an August wedding, I had time because school would be out for summer, and I am actually taking a year off since finding out I was pregnant a few months ago. Saturday, I went to Mary's bachelorette party. The party itself was fine, nothing remarkable happened. I couldn't drink but everyone had fun. One of Mary's bridesmaids asked what we all were getting her for her wedding. I said I was making the cake for free. The bridesmaid and other girls there said that was a good gift because cake is expensive and they wished they had gotten one for free. That's it, and I heard nothing else about it until today. Mary texted me and asked why I wasn't getting her a wedding gift. I told her I was, and that it was the cake, and reminded her that the cake was free. She said that wasn't a gift and that it's a favor. I told her it's a gift and that she can't tell me what I can gift her. I then asked why she was mentioning it, and she said the bridesmaid I spoke to Saturday told her that she was so lucky to get a free cake. She agreed but then was upset when the bridesmaid said, "That's a good gift." I asked her if her own bridesmaid thinks it's a good gift, what's the problem? And she said it's not up to the bridesmaid to tell her what her gifts are. I told her this is her gift. She said that a gift needs to be something she can use in her marriage, not just the cake at the wedding. I told her with me going to school and not working right now that this is a major expense that I'm taking on by doing it for free, and she said that wasn't her problem and that a real friend would do both. I responded with "Fine, I'll get back to you," and she thanked me for understanding. About 30 minutes later, I sent her a bill for her cake. The bill was for $700 with a deposit of $350 due by this Friday and the rest 24 hours before the event start time. She asked me what that was for, and I told her since it's not a gift, she needs to pay for it. She said she couldn't afford it, and I told her I didn't care and this is what business looks like. I did promise to get her a gift off of her registry though. She told me no cake is worth $700, but in the bill breakdown, I pointed out where it was going from ingredients to transportation. Her venue is 45 minutes away. Additional labor, my husband helps me deliver cakes, so he's getting paid too. Last minute booking, time and the size of the cake on top of the intricate decorations she wants. She said she shouldn't be charged for anything since I promised to do it for free, and it's too late to find another baker. I said, that sounds an awful lot like not my problem. Because it isn't. She then asked if I could just do the cake for free and forget the gift, but I said no, this is the new deal, and I have not responded to her texts since. She and her fiancé were venting in a group message with the wedding party that I'm not in. One of the bridesmaids, who is a mutual friend, asked me what happened after telling me what was being said in the group text, and I sent her the messages of our exchange, and now apparently, the bridal party is now divided. Some are saying I should go back and do the cake for free like I originally promised, while others are telling Mary she was wrong, and apparently it's become a huge ordeal. Her fiancé is now mad at both of us for being petty and ridiculous. My husband is on the team, Mary can suck an egg, and doesn't think I should do the cake or get the gift. But he told me to remember this could cost me a friendship, but he'd support me either way, but he thinks I should stand my ground in this, and not let Mary push me around. However, my husband also doesn't really like Mary for unrelated reasons, so he may be biased. AITA for charging my friend for the cake and refusing to do it for free after she got mad at me. ETA, burner account because I'm pretty sure Mary has Reddit for the wedding subs. Update. I posted a new post with an update. It was too long to add to this one. It's in this sub though. I read as many comments as I could. TBH, I did not expect the amount of responses I got and responded to who I could. This post was originally going to be answering as many repeat questions as I could, but this morning, a mutual friend, my bridesmaid, I'll call Pam, messaged me today to give me an update. Mary and her fiancé, I'll call Frank, are currently not on speaking terms because they got into an argument last night. It wasn't directly because of the cake but what the cake debacle revealed to Frank. Apparently, Mary has been spending a lot of his money on this wedding. Now, we all kind of already knew that. Mary told us Frank and his family would be footing the bill. He's an engineer and his family has a lot of money. I'm not exactly sure what their family wealth is from, but it was enough to pay out of pocket for him and his siblings to go to expensive universities debt-free. What we didn't know is that they've been arguing about the finances this entire time, and my cake was the last straw for Frank. Mary's budget for their wedding was $30,000 and she's apparently spent almost double that on intricate flowers, her wedding dress, decorations, engagement photos, catering, open bar, entertainment, and flying her family in and paying for their accommodations. The venue alone took a good chunk of their money because of the size and location, an hour away from where we all live. It's a large house, maybe considered a mansion, I can't remember, with several acres of land, horses, a lake and a field for wedding photos. The entire wedding party is supposedly staying there for a few days leading up to the wedding. I've not seen it in person. Again, I'm not in the wedding party and never was. But the photos online make it obvious why it's so expensive. I had no idea they had spent that much, and neither did anyone in the wedding party. As far as we all knew, the most expensive thing Mary had bought was her wedding dress to the tune of $5,000. I only know because I went with her to try some on with other friends and bridesmaids. Pam's fiancé is one of Frank's groomsmen, and Frank's been venting to the groomsmen in texts about how much this is costing, and he's not sure he wants to do this anymore. However, he feels compelled to because the money has been spent and is non-refundable, but he said he didn't know Mary would be this way about a wedding because she typically sticks to budgets, which is true. Literally everyone is surprised by how much she is supposedly spending, including my husband and me. Mary is the person who gets everything off-brand at the store to save $1 even when she really doesn't need to. From what Pam told me, Mary asked him to just pay me so she could have the cake, and he said no, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he was tired of spending money on just one day. He told her to figure it out herself. So nobody knows what is going on anymore, or if there will even be a wedding. No one has reached out to me about making the cake either, and my husband, for those wondering, is still the team Mary can suck an egg. Before anyone asks, no, Mary did not grow up poor. She was very much middle class like I was, and she's never been broke or anything. She also never seemed like she wanted overly expensive stuff. She drives a 10-year-old sedan that, despite Frank saying she needs a new car, she won't get rid of because it runs fine, and my dad taught me to drive my cars into the ground. So believe me when I say it really is out of character for her to be this nonchalant about money. I'm not sure if I'll have another update. If I do, it'll be after the wedding, if there is one. ETA. I know a lot of people are saying things about Mary just using Frank for his money, but at the same time, I want to remember that Pam only gave me Frank's side via what he's been telling the groomsmen. I have no idea what part he played and if this really actually bothered him up to this point, or if he's ever mentioned the amount she's been spending to her. It's now 6 p.m. and I've not spoken to or heard from Mary since yesterday after giving her the quote, so I don't have anything else to add other than my perspective. It really does sound out of character for Mary to be doing this, but I remember when I got married that my husband said he wanted me to have what made me happy for our wedding. So if he's been telling her what my husband told me and still giving her money, then he's definitely not an innocent party IMO. Last update. So I didn't expect this to actually get read on Charlotte's channel, but since it did, I'll let everyone know what ended up happening. And yes, it's confusing. Long story short, the villain in this situation isn't Mary. It's Frank. And no, they did not get married. If you want to read the first two updates, they're the only other two posts in my profile. And this update is all the information I've gathered from bridesmaid Pam and her fiancé, so bear with me. Most of this is what Mary has told Pam, who then relayed it to me. Anyway, I mentioned before that Mary was, and still is, a frugal person. That's why we all thought the gift and cake thing was weird, as well as her spending a bunch of money for the wedding. It turns out that Mary has actually been trying to save money despite doubling their budget. Apparently, Frank's family always throws extravagant celebrations and parties. That includes birthdays, holidays, graduations and weddings. So Frank has been emphasizing to Mary that this wedding is supposed to be huge because that's just how his family is. I'm guessing it's a way to flaunt success, but that's just a guess. I don't actually know the real reason. But Frank has been hands off the entire time. I'm not surprised. My own husband only cared about the food, cake flavor, and that the colors weren't pink. But Frank has been telling Mary to save money since that's what she's good at, and that he didn't want to spend a bunch of money on one day. So Mary picked out things that were cheaper but were not good enough for Frank. Like that mansion large house where everyone would be staying? Yeah, Frank's idea. Mary apparently wanted to do a hotel that hosted weddings because her family could stay there for less money, and the hotel was just cheaper to host a wedding versus a literal mansion with horses. He would do this with everything and veto things like her choices of decorations and vendors because they weren't big enough, or I'm guessing extravagant. He even told her how big her bouquet had to be and that her dress needed to have lots of bling. So basically, Mary has been trying to stick to the budget, but what was in the budget didn't match Frank's taste or expectations. So when I said she had to pay for the cake, Frank accused Mary of not saving them money despite her being so money conscious. And Mary wasn't the one who had the problem with the cake. It was Frank. I guess they both knew the cake was free, but Frank didn't know I was making it as a gift. Mary explained that I was, and he said that didn't count and to ask me about it. He said it didn't count because friends doing favors for an event like a wedding isn't a gift. On some level she must have agreed because she didn't mention Frank being the one with the problem at all in the messages, but whatever. Anyway, the cake was what Mary was really looking forward to because it was the only thing she felt she had 100% say in regarding the wedding. And when I charged her for it, Frank was upset that Mary was not saving them money like he was expecting. This resulted in a fight where they ended up not on speaking terms. When Frank was complaining to Pam's fiancé and the rest of the groomsmen, it was in text and, according to Pam, Mary found them and left Frank for making her seem like a greedy bitch to everyone when she was only getting things Frank wanted without Frank's help. And that if it were up to her, they wouldn't have most of the expensive things she bought for the wedding. The only contact I've had from Mary was an apology text message. When I told her it was okay and we were still friends, she didn't answer. In fact, she hasn't answered anyone other than to tell the wedding party that the wedding was off, apologize for the inconvenience, and since then, she's been quiet. She did post on her social media a long apology for canceling. She said postponed, but I noticed her relationship status is gone. But the location/check-in is in the hometown where her parents live, not where we live, so I think she went back to her parents' house after calling off the wedding. But that's all I know, and I heard it secondhand from Pam. But according to Pam, Frank is upset Mary left because all his money is tied up in vendors that he can't get back and has been trying to plead his case with the groomsmen. But only his brother is on his side. Pam's fiancé and the other groomsmen have stopped talking to him. Also, I heard Charlotte asking why Mary wasn't paying for the wedding too. I can't answer that, but Mary works as an STNA and doesn't make a lot. Her bachelor's was in psychology, and she never went on to get her doctorates, so getting employed in her field isn't very easy. I also don't know if they're still together. Mary didn't say they broke up, just that the wedding was postponed. Cancelled. I apologize if this confused anyone, but I'll try to answer anything I can in the comments. Just remember, I heard most of this secondhand besides the apology I got from Mary and the post she made online, so I may not have all the answers. Edit. Changed Pam's husband to Pam's fiancé. Sorry, I wrote this in a rush and was trying to keep up with the fake names for privacy. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I don't understand the connection between Mary wanting a gift and a free cake to Frank Villainous. Like, isn't Mary still wrong for asking for a gift? OOP she is. But she apologized and I accepted it. The only part I'm not clear on is how it even came up as a conversation between her and Frank. It might have just been casual, but she may have also been talking on speakerphone. I do that with my husband in the room, so he hears my conversations sometimes even if he's not part of it. But it sounds like Frank was mad that they were now paying for the cake when he thought it would be free and the goal was to spend little money for nice stuff. I'm guessing that if I agreed to do the cake and gave them a bill from the beginning instead of volunteering to do it for free, I would be dealing with "that's too expensive for a cake," or "we're friends, I should get a discount." Like they would have been negotiating from the start regardless. And I've had people pull those lines on me before. That's another reason why I rarely make cakes for people even if they offer to pay, because they still want some type of discount and get mad when I don't give one. Comment 2. Arguably the best part about this is that she apologized to you. But it also answers some questions that your other posts left open. But the one you didn't answer: is your husband still team Mary can suck an egg? OP, no. My husband, despite not liking Mary, thought this was strange behavior from her too. So when he found out that Frank's been lying, or at least not wholly honest, about everything, his team Frank can kick rocks with no shoes on. My husband likes idioms. My fiancé demanded I put his family first, even at the cost of my sister's health. Now I'm reconsidering everything. Original post, October 25, 2023. Throwaway, as my work friends are on my main and they don't know this is going on. Also, it is obligatory that this is on mobile, so spelling and grammar will be poor. This is a long one, but I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I, 28F, got engaged to my partner of 7 years, Rob, 29M, in May. Both sides of our family were really happy about this, and we had a big family meal 2 weeks after getting engaged. His brother lives 250 miles away and couldn't get here for that meal, so we decided to have a meal just for his family in late June when his brother would be back for the weekend. This weekend was arranged long before we got engaged, so he wasn't back just for the meal. Earlier this year, my sister Kim, 32F, got a serious eye infection that very quickly turned into an ulcer, which scarred her cornea and left it at a high risk of a perforation. She needed a corneal graft, but her surgeon was away for 4 weeks, so she was going to have to wait until he got back to have it. However, Her eye didn't hold and it perforated the day I was supposed to be going to the family meal with R's brother. Kim's wife was at work and had her phone turned off and our mom was away with our stepdad. So when Kim called me to let me know what was happening, I knew she would be at the hospital on her own. I immediately talked to my boss and he let me go early so Kim wasn't on her own. I texted Rob to let him know what was going on and he texted me back to send Kim his love and to remind me about the meal that night. I ignored the comment about the meal as it was the last thing on my mind. Once I got to the hospital, I was taken back into a room where Kim was, to be greeted by 3 doctors and 2 nurses rushing around trying to help Kim. I was then informed that she needed to have an emergency operation to have her eye glued or else she would lose it. The problem was that they didn't have a surgeon at that hospital that could do it and she needed to go to another hospital an hour and a half away. They asked if she would need transportation or if I could take her. I said I would take her. Once we got to the other hospital, we were told that she would be having the operation at 5:30 p.m. I knew then that I wouldn't make dinner and text Rob to let him know. He flipped out and basically told me to leave Kim at the hospital and have her wife pick her up after the op was done. At this point, I still hadn't been able to get a hold of Kim's wife. I told him that wasn't going to happen and that he was out of order to even ask me to do that. I then texted his mom and told her what was going on. She was really supportive and told me to stay with Kim and let her know how the op goes. A dinner can be rescheduled, Kim's health can't. I also spoke with his brother who was equally understanding. I stayed with Kim, her operation was a success and I got her back home about 9 p.m. Her wife had ordered some Chinese and offered me some, which I happily accepted as I hadn't eaten since lunch. With that, I didn't get home till about 11 p.m. and Rob was already asleep. Rob was very short with me for days after and we ended up having a huge fight where he told me that I should have put his brother and family before Kim. He said he was embarrassed to go to the meal without me. I responded that I was embarrassed he thought I would put a meal before my sister's health. This led to another week of awkwardness between us before we finally sat down and we sorted it out. Or so I thought. 8 weeks ago Kim got her graft and so far everything is going really well with it. On Saturday his brother was here so we went out for dinner with his family. His family were all asking about how Kim was doing and I showed them a picture of the stitches in her eye. I thought that everything had gone really well until we got home and he got really angry saying that I shouldn't have brought up Kim's health issues and I shouldn't have shown them the picture. I argued that they'd asked about her and asked to see the picture. It ended with him telling me that I needed to put him and his family before Kim or else we weren't going to work. His family will come before mine once we are married so I should get used to it. I went upstairs and packed a bag. I'm now at my mum's house and he's been bombarding me with texts and calls since I left. I do love him, but I will never put his family above my own family's health. I feel like he's expecting me to spend every holiday with his family and put their wants above my family needs, which won't happen. I'm very close to my sister and my mom, that's not going to change. So I don't really know how to move forward or if I even want to. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? If so, how did you deal with it? TLDR. My fiancé got mad that I missed dinner with his family because my sister needed emergency surgery and I was the only one available to take her. He is now insisting that I put his family before my own. I don't know how to move forward with him. Edit. For some reason it won't let me do a full update post even on my own page, so I'm just going to add it to here. Thank you so much for everyone that commented. I replied to as many as I could, but I read all of them. Warning, this is going to be longer than the original post. A lot has happened. TLDR, for those that just want a quick update, I left him and he's out of my house. His mum is seriously pissed at him and his brother has gone no contact with him for the foreseeable future. For those that want a longer version. Once I decided to end things with him, I knew that the main issue would be getting him out of my house. I own the house outright. My grandma died 5 years ago and left her house to my mum, who sold it and split the money between me and my sister. I then bought my house with that money about a year after she died. I got in touch with my stepdad's friend, who was a landlord the day after I wrote my original post, who then put me in touch with his solicitor. He didn't have time to see me in person that day, but we did have a phone call where he gave me my options. In the UK we have something called a Section 8 notice. This is a 14-day eviction notice and the solicitor said this would be the quickest way to get him out, however he could try and contest it if he wanted to, which would lead to court dates and could take months. I asked him to draw up the notice and date it for Friday, the next day. I'd already made the decision to end things with him after work on Friday, so that he could have the weekend to sort through his emotions before work on Monday. On Friday morning I texted Rob and asked him to meet with me at our local pub after work. He quickly agreed. Not only is the pub a public space, but my stepdad and a few of his work friends go in there every Friday after work for a few pints, so I knew he would be there to step in if I needed him. Thank you for suggesting this, Redditors. I also picked up the eviction notice on my lunch break, so I was ready to give it to him. Cost £250 but was worth it. When I got to the pub, Rob was already there and my stepdad was standing at the bar with his workmates. I sat down with Rob and got straight to the point. I told him that it was over. I couldn't be with someone who didn't give me any support when I was going through one of the scariest moments of my life and expected me to drop my family for him. It didn't matter what excuses he could come up with. I wasn't interested. I'd made up my mind and we were done. He stared at me in shock for what felt like an hour but was probably only a minute or so. He then started saying I couldn't be serious. We'd been together for 7 years and I was throwing it all away. I could never find another guy like him. I responded to the last comment with, I don't want a guy like you. That's why I'm ending it. I need someone who will support me when times get tough, not get annoyed that the world isn't bowing down to what he wants. I then handed him an envelope with the eviction notice in and my engagement ring. I told him I was giving him a few weeks to find a place and be out of my house. Then I stood up and walked over to my stepdad, who had bought me a much-needed drink, and stayed with him until my ex left, still looking in shock. I knew he wouldn't approach me whilst I was with my stepdad, as he has always been a little scared of him. This is obviously a very condensed version of what happened. Once I got back to my mum's house, I had one single text from him saying he wasn't moving out and was going to contest the eviction until I'd come to my senses and got back with him. "We are not over," was how he ended the text. I just turned my phone off and decided to deal with the legal side of things on Monday. There was nothing else I could do. Saturday morning I woke up and turned my phone back on and had another text from him saying that he would move out if I paid him £10,000, as that's what he'd paid towards bills whilst he had lived at the house. He paid for half the electric, gas, Wi-Fi and Sky package. Note, the Sky package is only as expensive as it is because he has to have every sports channel known to man, so his half literally just paid for the sports channels. I'd already asked the solicitor about this though, and he'd assured me that I didn't owe him any money as he hadn't contributed to a mortgage or any renovations of the house. It was just general expenses. He also knew that I don't have £10,000 just lying around. Let's say I was irritated by this and decided to ring his mum to see if she could talk some sense into him. I'll call his mum Sandra to make it easier. She was appalled by what I told her and said she would speak to him. She called me back about an hour later and asked me to meet her at the house. Rob was on an away day to watch his football team play and wouldn't be back till about 10 p.m., so I knew he wasn't there. I met her at the house with Kim, and Sandra said that Rob's brother was on his way back home and they would have Rob out by the following afternoon. She hadn't even spoken to Rob, just his brother, but she promised he would be out. Sandra then asked me to walk her through the house, showing her exactly what was his and what wasn't, so he didn't take anything that didn't belong to him. The next morning I got a text from Rob calling me all the names under the sun for getting his mom and brother involved. I blocked him, and a couple of hours later, Sandra texted me to let me know he was out and staying with her. I thanked her and she told me that she would like to stay in contact, and I happily agreed to this. I went back to my house after work on Monday, changed the alarm code, and my stepdad changed all the locks for me. My stepdad is also arranging for a friend of his to install cameras around the outside of the house. This will be done over the weekend. Sandra rang me on Tuesday asking if we could meet up as she had some things she wanted me to know. So we met for lunch that day. It was at this time that she told me her ex was a controlling a-hole who was incredibly selfish, and the selfishness was what she had seen in Rob for so long. That's why she had commented on him being like his father, but she had hoped that was the extent of Rob's attitude and he hadn't picked up his dad's controlling behavior, which, to be fair, he hadn't up until this whole episode. She had left Rob's dad after he had punched Rob's brother in the face when he was 14 and Rob was 10. He had never laid a hand on her or their sons before, but one time was enough and she left with the boys. To her knowledge, her ex had never reached out to speak to Rob or his brother, and they hadn't spoken to their father in years. I didn't know any of this. All I had been told was that their dad wasn't in the picture and hadn't been for a long time, but Sandra had thought I knew, and that's why she hadn't told me before. However, she had found out on Sunday night that Rob was back in contact with his father and had been for the past year. His dad had been putting lots of thoughts into Rob's head about how he is the man of the house and his family is all that matters. This had fed into Rob's selfish tendencies and had amplified them tenfold. Sandra said that she had told him to find somewhere else to stay ASAP as she couldn't even look him in the face. Then Rob and his brother had a huge argument that ended with his brother telling him that as long as Rob is in touch with their dad, then he will have zero contact with him. Even going so far as to tell him to spend Christmas with their dad because Sandra is going to his house and Rob isn't welcome. When Sandra took Rob's brother's side in all this, Rob flew into a rage and said he would move in with his dad. He then left the house, but came back a couple of hours later looking like he'd been crying. Turns out that his dad doesn't want him living with him and basically said he could be on the streets for all he cares. He's not putting a roof over a grown man's head. Sandra thinks that Rob is now starting to realize everything he has lost due to him listening to his dad and has seen his dad's true colors. Sandra is incredibly disappointed in him, but he's her son, so she is trying to be there for him as best as she can. However, she still wants him out as she doesn't trust him anymore. His brother still won't have anything to do with him. She has also told him to stay the hell away from me as I don't need to be brought into this, and he has promised her that he will. Only time will tell if that's true, but I do have him blocked on everything, and if he turns up at the house I will just call the police to get rid of him. The more Sandra told me about what had been going on behind my back, the more resolute I became about wanting nothing to do with him. I never want to see him again, if I can help it. So all in all, Rob's life is a shit show, but as long as he stays away from me then I don't care. I've been spending a lot of time with my sister and her wife as well, and my mom and stepdad, which has been great. I've never really been close to my stepdad, but this has brought us a lot closer together, which has been one huge positive out of all this. I'm not exactly happy right now, but I'll get there. There's still a lot of feelings that I need to unpack, and it will take time to move on from this whole situation. I don't think I will be dating for a while. I need to really get over all this and don't want to dump this on anyone else right now. For all those asking how Kim is doing, she's doing great. Had a hospital appointment on Monday and her consultant said her eye is healing, in his words, marvelously. So that's a relief. Thank you to everyone that reached out to me. I hope there won't be any need to update this again, so this should be my final update. For telling my ex that it's not my fault that he's homeless. November 26, 2023. So I 28 have posted on relationship advice before about my now ex 29M. The post and update is in my profile. But basically my ex-fiancé wanted me to put his family before mine, even at the cost of my sister's health. I ended up breaking up with him over it, and he was forced to move in with his mom, who then found out that he had been in touch with his abusive dad, who was twisting his view on how a relationship should work. Last I heard was that his mom was kicking him out as she would not have anyone in her house that was in contact with her ex, and that he had tried to go live with his dad, but his dad had refused. I was completely NC with him, so his mom was the one that had told me this. I'll call my ex Rob and ex-mum Sandra to make things easier. I hadn't heard from Rob in weeks, but yesterday he showed up at my house. I had the chain on my door, so opened it with that still attached. No way would I let him in. He basically told me that he had nowhere to live. His mum isn't speaking to him and his dad won't put a roof over a grown man's head, his words not mine. He asked if I would take him back or at least let him live with me. No way in hell would I get back with him, and getting him out the first time only went easy because his mum stepped in to help. He had threatened to take me to court, knowing that if he did it could take months to get him out, and then said he would only move if I gave him £10,000. I contacted his mom, who was furious about that, and she turned up with his brother and forced him out. I told him that there was zero possibility of him ever living with me again and that we were 100% over. He started shouting at me and calling me all sorts of names, so I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave and shut the door. I have cameras all over my house, so I caught everything he did and said on camera and saved it to a USB just in case. He then went crying to all our mutual friends and managed to get back to his mom. She called me and asked what happened. I told her, and she then informed me that she had put her house up for sale and was moving 300 miles away to be nearer her other son. She and Rob had a huge argument about this and she finally kicked him out. Since then he's been couch surfing, but with Christmas coming up, his friends aren't really happy with having him on their couches when they have kids and are meant to be enjoying the festive season. He's been kicked out of 3 friends' houses in 10 days. She told me I was right to refuse him, but I've since had other friends say that they feel sorry for them, and that I can just let him stay in my spare room until he's back on his feet. I then asked them to put him up, but they said they would but don't have room, and if they had a spare room like me then they would let him stay. My family and his are on my side, but I'm starting to doubt myself with what a couple of my friends have said. So Reddit, AITA? Edit. Just a quick edit as I'm going to bed. I've just spoken with the wife of one of Rob's friends and she's asked to meet me on my lunch break tomorrow. Apparently, Rob stayed with them for 2 nights before she kicked him out, and there's more going on than what I know of. She's going to tell me the full story tomorrow, but told me that I shouldn't let him anywhere near me and that he's staying in Airbnb, so he does at least have a roof over his head right now. I'll try to update after I've spoken to her. Update, November 27, 2023. So I posted yesterday about my ex turning up at my house wanting me to let him move back in with me. I said no, but a couple of friends thought I should let him, and that messed with my head. Rob is my ex. A few people told me to change my lock, etc. I did that and changed my alarm code, as well as my stepdad got his friend to put up 4 cameras around my house. I'm also going to start shutting the gate so that no one can walk up to the house without ringing the bell there first. I put in an edit that I was going to meet with one of Rob's friend's wives for lunch today, and I have to say that it was informative for sure. I'll call her Nat, 30F, and her husband Zach, 29M. So I went to meet her on my lunch break at a cafe near my work. It's a place that a lot of my co-workers go to, and I know the staff there as well. A few Redditors thought that she might bring Rob with her, so I wanted it to be somewhere I feel comfortable and have backup if needed. Turns out that I didn't need to bother about that. When I got to the cafe, Nat was there on her own. I grabbed some lunch and a drink and sat with her. We went through the usual small talk before she started telling me what had been going on. Rob rang Zach on Thursday morning saying he had nowhere to go and could he stay with them for a few days. Zach spoke to Nat and they agreed he could stay in their guest room. Rob went to their house after work and they had a long talk where Rob told them he has a flat lined up, but can't move in till January. Zach and Nat agreed to let him live with them until January as long as he followed some basic rules and paid for his own food. The rules were things like, no bringing women back there, and if he went out drinking he had to be quiet when he got back so he didn't wake their daughter who's 6. He agreed to all this and paid for a Chinese for them all that night. The next day after work Rob went to meet his dad in the pub for a few pints. When Zach and Nat went to bed Rob still wasn't home. They were woken up at about 2 in the morning by Rob arguing with a woman. Apparently, Rob had met this woman in a bar, took her back to Zach and Nat's house, got his pleasure and then told her to get dressed and fuck off once he was done. She had gotten angry, which started an argument where Rob was saying some horrific shit to her. Nat took the woman downstairs and got her a taxi, while Zach stayed upstairs arguing with Rob. Once Nat had got rid of the woman she went back upstairs and tried to calm Zach and Rob down. At this point Rob decided to take out his frustrations on Nat, calling her a bitch and telling her to do something useful and make him a sandwich before bursting out laughing like he'd made the funniest joke ever. This made Zach lose it and pinned Rob to the wall by his throat. Side note, Rob isn't a fighter at all, whereas Zach was an amateur boxer in his youth and can handle himself well. Nat managed to get Zach to let him go and Rob was shoved in the guest room and told to sleep off the alcohol. It's a miracle that Nat's daughter didn't wake up during this. The next morning Nat got their daughter ready and went to her mom's after telling Zach to get Rob out of their house. Zach agreed, and after Nat left he woke Rob up and told him to pack his shit and leave. Rob tried to apologize and begged to stay, but Zach was having none of it and kicked him out. Going off the timing, I think he left there and came straight to my house. On Sunday Zach texted Rob to meet up so that they could speak and they met up in a pub. Zach has been friends with Rob since they were 11 and has never seen him act like he has been doing, so he wanted to find out what was really going on. He managed to finally get the truth out of Rob. Basically, Rob has been in contact with his dad for a lot longer than he told us. By this point it's over 2 years. His dad is a raging misogynist that believes a woman's place is in the kitchen and bedroom. A man's place is to rule the house and be waited on hand and foot as well as deciding who can and can't be in their lives. He's been dripping this poison into R's ear and it's really taken a hold of him. Zach told Nat that he just doesn't recognize Rob anymore. Rob wants to start living his life the way his father has told him he should. When Zach pointed out that Rob's dad is 62, living in a shitty one-bedroom flat, not had a real relationship since R's mom left him, has no friends, his family doesn't speak to him and that he's the type of guy that when he walks into a pub people finish their pants so they can leave and get away from him, Rob was furious. He told Zach that his dad is just misunderstood. Zach responded that people understood his dad and that's why they stayed away from him. He's toxic. This pretty much ended their conversation and Rob left. Zach did find out that Rob does have a flat lined up for January, so that was true and that he's found Airbnb he can stay until the flat is ready at a minimal cost. Zach and Nat have also decided to go NC with Rob as they don't need that toxicity around them, but especially not around their daughter. A few Redditors had said it sounded like Rob was on drugs, so I asked Nat what she thought and she doesn't think so but can't be sure. She and Zach think that Rob is just so far under his dad's thumb now that he's completely changed as a person. He believes that everything his dad says is gospel. She did let me know that Rob has a burner IG account that he is using to check on my IG and I immediately made my account private. He had said something about seeing me waste money on a stupid amount of Christmas presents when I couldn't even help him out with Zach on Sunday. I'd been to a Christmas market on Saturday afternoon and had posted pics on IG. All of this just made my resolve stronger that he will not be getting anywhere near my house again. It also made me realize that I don't have any feelings for him anymore other than frustration at how he's acting and some sadness at how far he's fallen from the man I once knew. I thought that hearing he had another woman in his bed would annoy me, but there was just nothing. I couldn't have cared less. I thanked Nat for the info and we agreed to keep in touch. We won't be as close as we were when I was with Rob, but it feels good to have someone who knows the entire situation and has seen Rob's behavior with his own eyes. There were also some Redditors that told me to ditch the friends that had told me to let him stay with me. Unfortunately, I can't ditch them completely as they're part of the friend group and that would just cause unnecessary drama, but I will be keeping my distance from them and only talking to them when part of the group. I'm currently with my sisters and we are going to watch a Christmas film to get us in the mood to decorate all our houses this weekend. So I will be on and off for the next few hours if anyone has any questions. Thanks for the votes and giving me some perspective. Reddit isn't all bad. For anyone that's still around. December 19th, 2023. Still have people reaching out to see if I'm okay. A few hated me just using initials, so R is Rob. I really hoped that I wouldn't have to update again, but I've just had a call from one of Rob's friends and it looks like he's going to be spending Christmas in prison. Apparently, he went out on Saturday night with his dad and they got into an argument which turned physical. Rob isn't a fighter, however he is bigger and stronger than his dad, and it ended with his dad falling backwards and hitting his head off a wall, knocking him unconscious. The staff in the pub called the police and an ambulance, but Rob left before they got there. Rob's dad had to go to hospital, where he still is. I'm unsure of his exact injuries, but they're not life-threatening. He must also be awake as he is pressing charges against Rob. However, they won't keep him in unless absolutely essential at this time of year. Rob was arrested on Sunday morning at the B&B he's been staying at and had to appear in magistrate's court on Monday. Due to him not having a fixed address right now and the fact that his dad is still in hospital, he has been remanded on a Section 18 with intent. Unless he can find a permanent address to go to, then he won't be getting out until his trial at Crown Court. I know his mum is already with his brothers over 250 miles away, so I don't think she will be able to help right now. Finding this out has actually given me a sense of peace right now. I've been trying to ignore it, but the chance of him turning up and spoiling Christmas has been at the back of my mind ever since he turned up at my house. I'm hoping he stays in over Christmas so that I can just relax. OOP on Section 18 in her area. OOP, Section 18 is an assault charge. A Section 18 with intent is the next level up and is classed as intending to and causing grievous bodily harm to someone. I've been told that if found guilty, then it's usually a multiple-year prison sentence. Another mini update. December 23, 2023. I went round to N&Z, hereby known as Nat and Zach, to drop off a present for their daughter, a bottle of Bells for Zach and a bottle of Prosecco for Nat for Christmas, and had a cup of tea with them whilst they filled me in on what's going on. Rob will be in over Christmas, but will likely get out early January. His lawyer is trying to get the charges reduced from Section 18 with intent to a Section 20. I only found out today that a Section 18 with intent is one step down from attempted murder and you're looking at double digits in prison if you get found guilty. Section 20 is a lot less severe and is usually a 2-year suspended sentence for first-time offenders, which he is. His lawyer has said that if he pleads guilty to Section 20, then CPS will lower the charges to get this one over and done with ASAP, as the courts are ridiculously backed up in the UK right now and prisons are full. Zach went to the B&B he was staying at and got Rob's stuff, which is now sitting in his garage as one last favor to Rob, Zach's words. He can't get in touch with me without my consent whilst he is locked away. The prison literally has to ring me and ask if it is okay that I get put on his approved call list, and only then is he allowed to ring me, which won't be happening. I've also spoken to his mum, who has basically washed her hand of him for the time being. She thinks that he needs to learn his lesson and maybe spending Christmas in a cell will teach him how much he's lost the plot. She has spoken to him and said that he's now saying the right things, but only time will tell if he means them. He is talking about moving to be near his brother to get away from their dad, so maybe he has seen the light. His brother has refused to go onto his call list, so Rob can't contact him, so I don't know how that will work. As for his dad, he is still in hospital with a broken hip and has had to have surgery to fix it. The broken bone and head injury is why the charges are so high right now. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, knowing he can't ruin my Christmas. I'm just about to pack everything into the car and go and stay at my mum's until January 2nd, but thought I'd finish the year off letting everyone who's helped me and supported me through this know what's going on. Merry Christmas to everyone that celebrates it and hope everyone is doing well. Final update, April 13th, 2024. Hi all, sorry it's been a while since my last update, but I wanted everything to be finished before I update it again. Rob spent Christmas on remand in prison. He didn't get out until the second week of January, and that was only because his mum agreed to let him stay with her again. He had his plea hearing the first week of February, where he pleaded guilty to a Section 20 assault. He then had to wait until last week to get his sentencing court date. I didn't know how much actually goes into sentencing. They had to get a victim impact statement, a pre-sentencing report from probation, statements from his mum and brother. His barrister even reached out to me to give a statement saying that we had broken up and I'd asked him to leave the house. He used our breakup as an extenuating circumstance, saying that because of the breakup of our relationship and him losing his home, that had seriously impacted his mental health. The statements from his mom and brother also confirmed that he had lived in an abusive home when he was young, so he claimed he had PTSD because of that. These were all read out at his sentencing. He was going to get 3 years, but the judge knocked time off for pleading guilty and for mitigating circumstances. That left him with a 16-month sentence that was suspended for 18 months. As part of the conditions for his release, he isn't allowed anywhere near his dad, he has to go to counseling for his supposed PTSD, and he isn't allowed to drink alcohol. He even has an ankle monitor that tests his sweat every half an hour for alcohol and will alert probation if he gets a positive result. Luckily for him, his boss has let him go and work at their main location in the city that's half an hour away from here, and probation was happy for him to live there as well. He moved into a flat there this week, so I don't have to worry about running into him. I haven't spoken to him at all, and I don't want to either. He has tried reaching out through a couple of friends, but they've respected my decision and told him to move on with his life. However, I did speak to his mom yesterday and she said that she thinks he's depressed, but so far he's doing okay. She's the one I got all of this information from. It's a strange mix of emotion for me towards him, as I still care on some level, just not enough to keep him in my life. I know I need to keep him away from me, as I can never see him like I did at this time last year. It's crazy to think that it's only been a year since we got engaged. So much has happened. Other than those mixed emotions, I'm doing well. I've been hanging out with my sister and her wife a lot more, as well as catching up with friends. I'm still working at the same place and I don't see that changing anytime soon. For the people asking about my sister, she's doing good. She had a setback last month, but she seems to be over that now and has just been approved to have some form of newish stem cell treatment at the UK's biggest eye hospital. Which is fab news. She tried to explain it to me, but it involved them taking her blood and putting it into her eye, which grossed me out, so I told her to stop. However, because she's my sister, she then sent me pictures of what they do and Mum had to step in and tell her to stop. No matter how old we get, I don't think we will ever stop trying to annoy each other. So all in all, I think we're all moving on with life. Unless something big happens, then this should be my last post. I really want to thank everyone for their kind words and support. This has restored my faith that there are still good people out there. New update, June 30th, 2024, 2 months later. Hi all, I really hoped I wouldn't have to come back, but I've had several DMs on this account saying that a TikTok video is claiming that I'm back with my ex. I don't have TikTok, so I haven't seen it, but that's 100% not true. I haven't seen or spoken to him since my last update. As far as I'm aware, he's still living in the city half an hour away and is doing okay. I'm not really interested, to be honest. Rob's mom has accepted an offer on her house and has moved in with his brother until she can finalize the purchase of her house and find a flat she likes. Everyone else is doing well. My sister is the same and her eye is still healing. She's got some new glasses and says her vision is now nearly back to normal, so that's good. My sister and 7 other family and friends went out to Germany for England's first game, which was a lot of fun. Other than that, I've just been working and finding my new normal. Please don't listen to anything said about this on TikTok, YouTube, or anywhere else. I will not be getting back with Rob. That ship has sailed off the edge of a cliff. Relevant comments. Has Rob reached out to OOP? OOP. He was informed that I didn't want to speak to him and wanted to be left alone, and he respected that, thankfully. I just want us both to move on now. My stepmom left my dad after I refused to let her walk me down the aisle, and now he has a shocking confession before my wedding. I'm Lily, a 28-year-old woman who will marry her fiancé Richard, a 30-year-old man, in 3 months. To comprehend my current circumstances, I must return to my childhood. My parents, Claire, 53F, and Tom, 55M, met at college and married young. They had me when they were both 25, and for the first 10 years of my existence, we seemed like the ideal family. I remember spending weekends at my grandparents' lake house, where Dad taught me how to fish while Mom made lunches. Every Friday, we had family game night, and my parents took turns reading me bedtime stories. It wasn't perfect, they argued like any couple, but I always felt loved and secure. Everything changed when I was 10. Dad began working late more frequently, and Mom appeared increasingly tense and sad. I overheard arguments about someone named Tanya, but I had no idea what was going on. Then, one day, I returned home from school to find Mom crying in the kitchen. She sat me down and told me that Dad had an affair with his coworker, Tanya, 48F, and they were getting divorced. The following few months were a jumble of tears, conflicts, and bewilderment. Dad moved out and I remember being furious with him for hurting Mom and splitting up our family. The divorce was messy and traumatic. There were intense debates over custody and property partition. I recall sitting outside the courtroom during one of their sessions, feeling disoriented and terrified. In the end, Mom received primary custody, with Dad receiving visits every other weekend. At first, I was hesitant to spend time with Dad. I was angry and sad and I did not want to leave Mom alone. Mom, despite her own anguish, pushed me to give Dad another chance. She informed me, "Your father made a mistake, but he still loves you. It's fine to adore him too." Gradually, I began to like spending weekends with Dad. He'd take me to the movies, show me how to cook, badly, and we'd have lengthy discussions about school and my friends. Things became more problematic when Dad declared 2 years after the divorce that he was marrying Tanya. Tanya and I met for the first time at a dinner Dad had arranged. She appeared pleasant enough, bringing me a gift, a diary with my name embossed on it, and inquiring about my interests. But I couldn't get rid of the idea that she was the reason my family had come apart. Tanya worked hard to establish a bond with me after Dad and Tanya married. She was constantly buying me gifts, clothes, books, art supplies, and recommending mother-daughter activities such as spa days or cooking classes. However, her efforts felt forced to me, and I was never comfortable around her. Part of it was out of loyalty to my mother, and part of it was because Tanya appeared to be attempting to replace her. As I approached adolescence, my connection with Dad and Tanya deteriorated. They would frequently make disparaging remarks about Mom, such as, "It's a shame your mother is so bitter," or, "If only your mother could move on like we have." These statements bothered me because I understood how hard Mom worked to co-parent harmoniously. My mother, on the other hand, never spoke negatively about Dad or Tanya in front of me. She listened to my complaints but always pushed me to give them another shot. "They're not perfect," she'd continue, "but they try. It's acceptable to have many relationships with different people in your life." Tanya became pregnant when I was 16 years old. Dad was overjoyed, continually mentioning how happy he was to have a real family, now. Those words struck deep because they made me feel like I wasn't enough for him. Like I was a relic of his past rather than an important part of his new existence. Tanya had a miscarriage at 20 weeks. It was a tough time for them, and I recall feeling a combination of anguish for their loss and guilty relief that I would not be replaced by a new baby. Dad informed me that Tanya would require additional love and support from me, which put a lot of strain on me at a time when I was already dealing with usual teenage concerns and the lingering consequences from the divorce. Tanya's attachment to me grew stronger following the miscarriage. She began introducing me to everyone as her daughter, which made me very uncomfortable. She also started urging me to call her Mom, something I flatly refused to do. This resulted in several arguments, with Dad always siding with Tanya and accusing me of being insensitive to her feelings. During this time, my relationship with my mother remained solid. She was my rock, always willing to listen without judgment and provide support without pressuring. She encouraged me to pursue my interests, which led to me joining the school newspaper and later studying journalism in college. I met Richard in college. We were both writing for the campus paper and bonded over our shared interest in investigative reporting. Richard's family was much easier than mine. His parents were still happily married and he had 2 younger siblings. I was initially cautious to let him inside my delicate family relationships, but his tolerance and understanding allowed me to open up. All of these previous concerns have finally come to a head as we prepare our wedding. I have chosen to ask my mother to walk me down the aisle. She's been my steadfast supporter, role model and greatest friend. When I told Dad and Tanya about my decision, Tanya fell into tears and Dad became enraged. They told me I was being selfish and that Tanya should also lead me down the aisle because she had been in my life for so long. I refused, stating that my mother is my soul mother and the person I want at my side on my wedding day. This sparked a heated dispute, with Dad threatening not to attend the wedding if Tanya wasn't given a particular position. He mentioned all the times Tanya tried to be there for me, the presents she bought, the activities she planned, but to me, such things pale in contrast to my mother's unwavering love and support. Tanya blamed me of never giving her a chance and claimed that after all these years, she considered me her own daughter. She brought up her miscarriage again, expressing how difficult it had been to lose a baby and then have her stepdaughter reject her. I understand that the miscarriage was difficult for her, but I don't think it's appropriate to use it as emotional leverage against me. I'm sticking to my decision, but now I'm wondering if I'm being too severe. Richard fully supports me, saying that it is our wedding and we should do whatever feels right to us. However, some of my extended family members believe I should make a compromise to keep the peace. Part of me feels bad for hurting Tanya's feelings, but a larger part of me is upset that Dad and Tanya are attempting to make my wedding about them. I've spent years attempting to negotiate this blended family arrangement, often at the price of my own emotions. I want my wedding day to be a celebration of love, not a battleground for old family feuds. Am I an asshole for refusing to have my stepmother lead me down the aisle? Should I stick to my decision or seek a compromise? Update 1. It's been a month since my previous post, and a lot has changed. First and foremost, I'd want to thank everyone for their encouraging words. They greatly increased my confidence in my decision. After the wedding quarrel, my father and Tanya stopped communicating to me for a few weeks. It was a stressful situation, and I found myself continually checking my phone, half expecting and half fearing a message from them. Richard was quite helpful at this time, telling me that it was acceptable to prioritize my own sentiments and that I was not responsible for controlling their emotions. Tanya called me unexpectedly, weeping. She apologized for pressing me throughout the years and stated that she simply wanted to be close to me. Her voice sounded truly sorry, and for a little time, I felt a ray of optimism that we might be able to go forward. She asked if we could meet for coffee to talk things over, and after some hesitation, I accepted, thinking it would be a good opportunity to clear the air before the wedding. We met in a neighborhood cafe that I used to frequent in college. It was weird to be seated across from Tanya in a setting that brought back memories of study sessions with friends and early dates with Richard. At first, everything appeared to be going well. Tanya was surprisingly sympathetic, even saying she accepted my choice to have my mother follow me down the aisle. She told my father some anecdotes about her own wedding, including how scared she was and how she wished she had a closer relationship with her stepmother. I found myself softening slightly, viewing her as a person with her own troubles and fears rather than the woman who had ended my parents' marriage. However, things took a turn when she mentioned that she and my father were thinking about renewing their vows next year. At first, I assumed she was just discussing their plans, but then she dropped a bombshell. She offered that I walk her down the aisle at their vow renewal ceremony to balance things out. This suggestion stunned me. It felt like she was attempting to establish a quid pro quo, as if my wedding and their vow renewal were somehow interchangeable. I explained that a daughter's wedding is not the same as a vow renewal. Tanya became agitated and accused me of not giving her a chance. She mentioned the miscarriage again, explaining how difficult it had been and how she had hoped that having a kid would bring our family closer together. She stated that losing the baby was especially devastating since she believed she had missed her chance to actually be a mother. I attempted to be empathetic, recalling how awful that time had been for everyone, but I also stated that her death, while tragic, did not require me to regard her as my mother. I said that I had my own complicated thoughts at the time, feeling both sad for their loss and pleased that I would not be replaced. The conversation rapidly degenerated from there. Tanya accused me of being cold-hearted and ungrateful for everything she had attempted to do for me over time. She mentioned every gift she had ever given me and every outing she had planned, as if keeping track of her attempts at motherhood. I emphasized that genuine connection and respect for limits are what sustain relationships, not gifts and forced outings. In the heat of the moment, I uttered something I had been keeping quiet for years. I informed Tanya that, while I was sad for her loss, I was tired of her using the miscarriage as emotional leverage. I said it wasn't fair to put the responsibility of her unfulfilled maternal urges on me, especially when I was only a teenager trying to deal with my own familial tragedy. Tanya burst into tears and walked out of the cafe, leaving me sitting there, feeling guilty, angry, and relieved that I had finally spoken my actual sentiments. As I sat there trying to digest what had just transpired, I couldn't help but think about how this cafe, which had once held wonderful memories, would now be forever connected with this awful confrontation. My father called me later that evening, enraged. He claimed I had been harsh to Tanya and owed her an apology. He accused me of being selfish and ungrateful, claiming that Tanya had always wanted to love me. When I tried to explain my side of the story, he interrupted me, stating that if I couldn't accept Tanya as my mother, perhaps I shouldn't consider him my father anymore. Those remarks struck me hard. Despite our disagreements throughout the years, I never questioned that my father loved me. But in that moment, it felt like he was choosing Tanya above me, just like he had done years before when he abandoned our family for her. I am hurt and outraged, but I am also more certain than ever in my decision. Richard has been wonderfully supportive throughout this process, hugging me when I cry and assuring me that I have every right to set boundaries. We're going forward with our wedding plans, aiming to create a day that celebrates our love and the family we're starting together. My mother has also been fantastic. When I told her what had happened, she listened without judgment and offered consolation without attempting to influence my decision. She reminded me that family connections are complex and that it is acceptable to prioritize my own emotional well-being. After a few days of thought, I've decided to send my father and Tanya a farewell message. In it, I intend to express my emotions and boundaries clearly. I want to make it clear that, while I am open to having a connection with them, it must be on terms that respect my sentiments and my relationship with my mother. I'll tell them that if they can't accept it, they won't be invited to the wedding. As I sit here writing this message, I can't help but feel a mixture of loss and relief. It isn't the relationship I hope I could have with my father and stepmother, but it's the healthiest I can provide right now. Am I doing the right thing, or am I being overly harsh and potentially excluding them from this key day in my life? Update 2. Another month has passed, and things have only gotten more confusing. After I wrote a message to my father and Tanya describing my feelings and boundaries, I didn't hear from them for a few weeks. The silence provided both relief and anxiety. I tried to concentrate on wedding planning, finalizing the menu, having clothing fittings with my mother and working on our vows with Richard, but the unresolved problem with my father and Tanya remained in the back of my mind. Then, last Saturday, my father arrived to my flat unannounced. I was in the process of addressing invitations with Richard when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see my father standing there, fatigued and upset. I invited him in, more by surprise than anything else. Richard, sensing the tension, excused himself to give us some peace, but not before gently caressing my hand. When we were alone, Dad broke down. He informed me that Tanya had left him. Tanya apparently had a breakdown following our disagreement at the coffee shop and my message. She informed my father she couldn't take the rejection longer and needed to find herself. She packed her luggage and left to reside with her sister in another state. As I listened to my father pour out his heart, I was overcome with emotion. Part of me felt justified. Hadn't I been warning Tanya for years that her relationship to me was unhealthy? But another part of me felt guilty. Had my inability to accept her as a mother figure truly caused so much pain? Dad was a mess, alternately apologizing to me and blaming me for Tanya's departure. He explained that he didn't know how to solve things and asked if I would try family therapy with him and Tanya. The concept made me uncomfortable. I told him I wasn't prepared for that, especially since Tanya had left him and I wasn't sure where we all stood. Then my father revealed another bombshell. He admitted that years ago, when Tanya miscarried, they had been trying for a baby because Tanya believed it would help me accept her as a mother figure. He admitted that they were wrong to try to replace me or push a mother-daughter bond. This information surprised me. It explained a lot about their behavior over the years, including the increased pressure to bond with Tanya, the continuous comparisons to a real family, and the guilt-tripping following the miscarriage. However, it also made me angry. I felt manipulated, like my feelings had been ignored in their effort to build their ideal family. I told my father I needed time to comprehend everything and begged him to go. I was overwhelmed as I closed the door behind him. I contacted my mom because I needed her calm presence and smart guidance. She listened attentively as I explained everything, then suggested that I take some time to seriously consider what I want my relationship with my father and Tanya to look like in the future. Now I'm feeling conflicted. On the one hand, I feel vindicated in my decision to maintain boundaries with Tanya. Her leaving my father appears to demonstrate that her attachment to me was motivated more by her selfish desires than real concern for me. On the other side, I feel horrible for my father, who appears truly sorry and bewildered. Richard believes I should keep my boundaries, but be open to repairing a connection with my father over time. He pointed out that, while my father's confession regarding the pregnancy attempt was hard to hear, it was also a step forward in honesty that we had not experienced previously. My mother, when I told her what had transpired, was surprisingly sympathetic to my father. She believes that when individuals are thirsty for affection and acceptance, they can make serious blunders. She reminded me of how young my father was when they had me, and how he may have been attempting to recreate the family life he believed he had lost. The wedding is now only a month away, and I'm not sure what to do about my father's invitation. Should I still invite him, giving him the opportunity to be a part of this special day? Should I contact Tanya now that I understand her motivations? Should I focus on my own happiness while they deal with their problems? As I sit here, staring at the stack of unsent invites, I understand that this decision is about more than the wedding. It's about the future relationship I desire with my father and whether Tanya has a role in my life. It's about striking a balance between compassion and self-protection, as well as determining what forgiveness looks like in a circumstance where the wounds are deep. Update 3. The wedding was last weekend, and I wanted to provide a last update on how everything worked out. After considerable thought and several long conversations with Richard and my mother, I decided to keep my father's invitation to the wedding open, but I made it plain that it was only for him and not Tanya. I sent him a long email explaining my decision. I informed him that I was willing to work on our relationship, but it would take time, and that he needed to respect my boundaries. I also conveyed my wish that he would attend the wedding to celebrate this special day in my life, but I understood if he felt unable to attend without Tanya. To my amazement, my father accepted these terms. He responded to my email again, apologizing for everything and expressing his want to be present on my wedding day. He also stated that he and Tanya were still separated, and that he was beginning to see how much their relationship had influenced me over the years. Last-minute preparations dominated the week leading up to the wedding. My mother was an unwavering source of support, assisting with everything from floral arrangements to easing my pre-wedding nerves. Richard's family visited from out of town, and witnessing how well they got along with my mother made me happy for the loving, drama-free family I would marry into. On the wedding day, I was a ball of nervousness and excitement as my mother helped me into my dress. We both shed tears as she told me how proud she was of the lady I'd become and how glad she was that Richard and I had met. It was a memory I'll keep forever. The ceremony was amazing. Walking down the aisle with my mother by my side felt just beautiful. I noticed my father seated in one of the front rows, appearing distraught yet smiling when our gazes met. Richard's reaction when he saw me go down the aisle was all I had hoped for and more. During the reception, I was busy welcoming visitors and enjoying the festivities with Richard, but I noticed my father looking sad and lonely at moments. He put on a brave face whenever he noticed me gazing. To my amazement, he had a cordial chat with my mother at one point. They were never going to be friends, but the fact that they could be in the same room without causing tension was a relief. After the wedding, after things had settled down a little, my father and I had a long conversation. He apologized once more for everything and promised to try harder to be a good father. He recognized that he had made numerous mistakes, particularly in attempting to force a connection between Tanya and myself. He also informed me that Tanya had decided to stay with her sister indefinitely, and they were discussing a trial separation. I'm cautiously enthusiastic about mending my relationship with my father. We've decided to start with monthly dinners for just the two of us to reconnect without pressure. It won't be easy, and there'll be a lot of pain to deal with, but I'm willing to try. I chose not to contact Tanya right now. I believe we both require time and space to recover and move forward. Maybe eventually we'll be able to talk about everything that happened, but for now, I'm focused on my new life with Richard and mending my relationship with my father. This entire experience has been a roller coaster, but I'm glad I held my ground. I'm starting my married life with a better awareness of my family dynamics and more firm limits. The wedding proved to be more than simply a celebration of my love for Richard. It also marked a fresh beginning in my relationship with my parents. Richard and I are finally settling into married life, and it feels great to face the future together, knowing we can deal with anything that comes our way. We are planning a belated honeymoon to Japan next month, which we are both looking forward to. Thank you to everyone who helped me on this journey. Your guidance and encouragement helped me get through this terrible situation and begin this new chapter in my life on a positive note. It won't be easy, and there'll be a lot of pain to deal with, but I'm willing to try. I didn't tell my parents about my college money, then my dad stole it, causing an unforgivable betrayal that tore our family apart. Original. Am I the asshole for not telling my parents that I received money from my college? May 14, 2023, 20 years old, non-binary, live with my parents, in their 50s, and my two sisters, 20 years old and 19 years old. For as long as I can remember, my parents have had financial difficulties. For the past 4 months I have paid the entirety of my parents' rent. While I don't really make that much, I work 50 hours a week most weeks due to understaffing, so I get a pretty good paycheck. Plus most of the time I'm able to set aside some money for saving. However, these past months every one of my dad's paychecks, he makes the most money out of us all, have been garnished or been completely gone before he ever gets them. I have the misfortune of getting paid the exact same days as him. So the majority of my paychecks and all my savings have gone to paying for bills. 2 weeks ago my dad didn't get his paycheck and I ended up overdrawing my bank account $1,000. It was an accident as I had forgotten about a payment that I had made that had yet to show up. So when I got my paycheck on Friday it was just $100. Which my dad immediately asked for 80 of. I had told my parents I would be unable to help financially for the next 2 weeks, and again my dad didn't get his check, so my parents are scrambling to get money together to avoid our utilities being cut off. My college does this thing. I don't know if every college does this or not. Where you pay the full amount of your tuition and then at the end of the semester you get the amount of scholarships and financial aid paid to you. There is a deadline to get the money, however they hold it for you if you miss it. The most of the 2 years I have been going there I have forgotten to do that, so the money has been sitting around. I had missed the December deadline for the fall semester, but I got a jump on spring knowing that I would forget, and it is my last year at that college because I am transferring to another one. I promptly forgot about it. Well, on Friday, I received an email from the bank system my college uses that I will be receiving the money. I had shrugged it off because most of the time I receive my money from that kind of stuff really late. So while the email said 1-2 business days, I was thinking it would be in June. So imagine my surprise when I see that day it was in my account. Also, considering that it has been sitting there for 2 years, it is a fair amount. I am by no means rich or anything, but it was certainly more than I had been expecting. I paid a bill that I just haven't been able to, and the majority is just sitting in my bank account. It's been 2 days and I haven't mentioned anything about the money. My parents never even knew I was getting money from my college due to my forgetfulness. I know that this money could help make sure that none of our utilities are cut off, but I can't seem to bring myself to tell them. I'm moving out soon, so this money could go towards giving me some breathing room or going to my classes this summer, so I really want to save it and not say anything, just let my parents assume that I only have $20 to my name. However, if the utilities get cut off, then I will be affected as well. I feel like such an asshole for not telling my parents about the money. I know that I'm just being selfish, but I am so tired of every penny I make going towards my family's bill. I know my mom feels extremely guilty every time they do this, but it is something they have to do to survive. So, am I the asshole? Edit. Since a lot of people are asking, here you go. My parents have a lot of payday loans from my childhood, other loans, and owe money to the state and IRS. My dad had at one point been accused of a gambling addiction. It runs in his family, and he had at one point had one. However, my parents have talked this out. My dad's company also has shitty communication, so we have no way of knowing when he is garnished and why until he gets paid. Everyone does work, but me and my dad make the most money. My mom works a minimum wage job. My sisters work part-time minimum wage jobs. My mom and 20-year sister do help pay bills. My little sister, however, does not. She is the type that has a little bit of money and goes wild. My parents pay for a lot of her stuff without ever seeing a dime for it. My parents are trying to stop that, however it is extremely difficult due to other factors that I will not get into on this post, as it has nothing to do with money. The reason I make a lot of money is because I'm a lifeguard, and due to the lack of them we are paid intensively. As many of you have suggested, I am moving out. I am moving to a different city this summer for classes. I honestly don't think I need to go to such extremes as some of you suggested. My bank account is separate from theirs. We do use the same bank though. My parents do not try to sneakily get my money, and the few times my dad has, I have called him out and berated him over it. My mom also feels extremely guilty about the entire situation, and as such I don't see her doing anything underhanded, and my dad, I have strict guidelines with him. I do have a ton of notifications for both my credit card and bank account to the point of $1 getting spent. I will know. Also, no, I will not be getting back the money that I have given to my parents. I am not even going to try. I'm not going to be another thing that they have to pay off. However, some of your suggestions I will follow. My parents are aware, and I will remind them when I leave that I will not be able to pay things when they leave, as I will be both reducing my hours at work and having my own bills to pay, such as school and the apartment. Relevant comment: the _eternal_veggie NTA. You are technically paying for school yourself, right? The student loans and scholarships are all in your name, so that money is yours. Put it into savings, use it to buy textbooks next semester. If it's money left over from your student loans, you'll technically have to pay it back when you start paying your loans. So might as well use it as you please. I received money back from college for a few semesters, like $600/semester. But at that time my parents paid for my tuition, only $1,500/semester, community college, so I just paid them back that money since it was theirs anyway. But when I started paying for myself, I kept that money for myself. OOP, I pay for college out of pocket. I don't have student loans and no one else has paid for my tuition, so it is absolutely my money. Update 1, Wibite for going no contact with my dad and technically being responsible for my parents' divorce. May 27, 2023, posted 13 days later. So I, 20 NB, live with my parents and 2 sisters for now. I am moving out next month. So my dad decided to play a joke on me. He took my card and took out 90% of the money and my money out of my checking account. For those wondering about the college money I got from a previous post, it is in another savings account that is through another institution, so it is safe. He then put my card back in its original position and went to work. He did all of this around midnight. So I woke up in the morning to most of my money being gone. My first thought was that my dad took my card without asking, but my card was still in my wallet and where I left it. I had thought that someone had cloned my card and guessed my PIN. I sent off a quick text to my mom and called my bank. I spent a while doing that. I was so anxious, I was practically sobbing, and I'm not a person that really cries. That money was my deposit and rent for June. I then went into the living room and heard my mom arguing. I couldn't hear much, but I heard my mom exclaim, "What made you think it was a good idea?" Instantly dread filled me. I walked up to my parents' room. My mom was arguing with my dad on the phone. According to my dad, he found our cat playing with my card. He decided to take it and remove my money to teach me a lesson about leaving my card lying around and then go to work. My dad apologized to me and I just handed the phone back to my mom and stormed out of the room. My dad had pulled something like this to me before, except he took all of my money and then lost it. My dad claimed that he took the money to teach me a lesson for leaving my card around my family. Later on he told me in private that he took it because he knew I was lying about the amount of money I had. I had been saving that money for a medical thing, so I was hiding it because my family is always in a state of financial distress and he would ask for it if he knew that I had it and I was just done being in constant pain. Anyways, there were clear flaws in the story he told us. First, I had my card and it was in my wallet exactly where I left it. That was a whole separate trip from going to work. Also, neither my wallet or my card have any sign of damage. My dad works out of the city, which is a 1.5 car ride from where we live. My mom said that she will drive me to my dad's work where we will pick up the money. We don't trust him to have it till he is done working due to what happened last time. He protested, saying that will use too much gas and that he will drive down instead, as that will use the same amount of gas. This ultimately leads to my mom practically having the confirmation that he has started gambling again. My dad had a gambling addiction when I was younger, but he got help for it and had been clean for a while. As in her mind, why else would he be so adamant that we not go to his work? He came home and returned all the money to me. Yes, I counted over and over again to make sure. He apologized and I said nothing. My mom said that he didn't sound sincere. My dad blew up on her, saying that he had apologized over the phone and that he was obviously sorry about what happened. He later on apologized to me about that, but I ignored it and he doesn't seem to be talking to my mom. My mom has told me that she is going to talk to a lawyer and she is absolutely torn up about this. There have been so many issues with their relationship this past year, but this seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back to leave her 40-year marriage to my dad. My sisters don't know what is going on, or if they do not know the whole situation. I told her that once I move out that I might go no contact with him. My mom got all sad and said she doesn't blame me for wanting to after all that my dad put me through. I'm honestly emotionally drained and dreading calling back my bank. My mom had this great weekend planned for us, but now there is an overwhelming feeling of dread and tension over everything. I was actually going to finally do something for myself that I had finally worked up the nerve to ask my mom about, but that had to be cancelled. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm moving out soon, I would have called my friend and moved out today. I'm just done with my dad in this situation. At the same time, I feel such an overwhelming guilt. I know that I did the right thing. That I had to tell my mom and protect myself financially, but I don't know. I feel responsible for my parents separating, and me and my mom are the only ones that know that, even though my dad made his choice. The fact that I love my dad and I still want a close relationship with him like I never had yet. I can't imagine ever talking to him after he put me through all this. I also feel like I'm too emotional and hasty to make these decisions, as all of this happened today. Maybe I just need confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. So Wibta, another relevant comment. Snowflake 100000000 NTA. Your dad stole from you. Change your PIN number and passwords on everything. OOPO, absolutely. I reached out to my bank thinking that someone copied my card before I found out it was my dad. I am getting a new PIN, new card, and account information. Everything is being changed. Update 2. Update. Wibta for going no contact with my dad and technically being responsible for my parents' divorce. June 11, 2023. Posted 15 days later. I know it's been 2 weeks since my last post, but a lot has happened since then. My parents are getting a divorce. I have mixed feelings about this. My mom has started to track my dad. I know invasion of privacy, but it was the only way to know for sure. Multiple times the tracker has put him at a casino when he claims he's working. My mom has figured that he has been getting his paycheck 2 days early and not telling anyone. My mom called a lawyer last Wednesday to talk about her next move. My dad isn't fighting it, which is honestly destroying my mom. Yesterday we got an eviction notice that we have to be out by the end of the month. This has happened before, but my dad has always explained it away. Apparently my dad, hasn't paid the rent in 4 months. My dad hasn't said anything about this. He now knows we are all seeing through him and his act. My mom and younger sister are going to live with my maternal grandparents. Me and my other sister are moving out to our own apartment at the end of the week. This makes me extremely angry. Because my parents got the money for me to pay for the rent. Instead, it was going to my dad's gambling. I did a calculation for how much I gave them this year and I am horrified. It is over $10,000. All my savings for college, so many of my paychecks that I have given up to help my family have actually gone to my dad's gambling addiction. I feel so used and like a fool. I feel so betrayed. My mom has told me that she doesn't want me to go no contact with my dad. She wants to hold family dinners once everything has settled down and she has a place and she is going to invite my dad. My mom still loves my dad and keeps saying that he is sick. I know this, I know he isn't well. That he has lost control, but I don't know if I can keep him in my life. He used me and manipulated me. I feel less like his child and more like his walking bank account. He broke our family, and even if it is because he's sick, I don't know if I can put it past me. I know that it would destroy my mom to cut my dad out of my life. I know you guys said I'm not the in my last post, but I still feel like one. I might add more later as I have to go to work. Edit, adding some details I forgot about in a rush to go to work. One of the reasons that my mom is going to do these dinners is to give my dad a reason to get help. I honestly don't think that will work. First, my father is rarely with us or does stuff when he lives with us. I doubt he will go. Second, if the looming threat of divorce didn't kick him into gear, I don't think weekly dinners will. I have a really good relationship with my mom, so I do want to go to those dinners to spend time with her. But I don't know if I can face my dad if he decides to come. My mom wants me to have a good relationship with my dad, which is why she doesn't want me to go no contact with him. Also, some of it is likely her guilt for the situation and the fact I tend to be the person she goes to for help. Also, a lot of you have been confused by me being responsible for their divorce. Like I said, it was an update to a post that I had made previously. If you want all the information, go look at that post, but the rundown is I woke up and saw that someone stole my money. I told my mom and she figured out it was my dad. My mom realized that she needs to divorce my dad due to him lying about what happened. My mom has never told me that any of this was my fault. It was how I was feeling at the moment. I have since gotten over that guilt. Many of you have said that I should try to get the money back from my dad. I'm not sure. I made peace not getting the money back. I'm not going to take him to court. My life is already crazy without worrying about court and my dad's gambling addiction. Not to mention, I really don't have proof that I could show the court, as I just gave the money to my mom. I never made any comments digitally what the money's for, so it will absolutely fall apart and become a he said they said. And honestly, I don't want to deal with it. I just want to move past this. Update 3, am I the asshole for not wanting my dad to live with me? July 1st, 2023, posted 20 days later. So I, NB20, live in my own apartment with my sister, 20, and roommate, M19. We moved in about 2 weeks ago. Due to events in one of my previous posts, me and her are the only ones in my family not homeless. My dad has been living in his car and staying in hotels when able. My dad has recently been hospitalized for a multitude of reasons. No, I won't go into detail. He is going to be released from some of the medical advice that is going to be given to my dad he can't follow due to being homeless. My parents haven't mentioned the fact that my dad's homeless or that they are in the middle of a divorce to the hospital. My mom is scared of what that would mean for him. My mom has asked me to talk to my roommates to see how they feel about my dad living with us temporarily. I agreed to it, but I honestly don't want to have him. This might be selfish, but he would be in my room due to the fact he works at night. He won't do my sister's room because her room is hyper-feminine and is only separated by a curtain from the living room. As I'm the one with an actual room, he would be sleeping in my room. Our schedules are pretty reversed, so we would never see each other except on my days off, but I really hate this idea. In our previous house, I had to share my room with my mom because of her working from home. This meant that whenever someone felt like it, they would barge into my room. I finally have my own space that no one could barge into, and not even 2 weeks later it might be stripped from me. Not to mention, I am currently searching for another job due to the fact that I have moved to another city and no longer want to commute 3 hours each way, and I have a couple phone interviews lined up for my days off, and I can't go into the living room due to my roommates also having those days off, and I don't like talking on the phone in public. My dad has also not acknowledged that he has done anything wrong. I am also still pissed at him. He can't go with my mom and other sister due to my maternal grandparents hating his guts at the moment. He can't ask any of his family due to the fact that they are abusive, and he doesn't want to admit how bad his situation has gotten. So this just leaves me and my sister. My dad already doesn't like our roommate due to sexism and toxic masculinity. I don't think he will act in any way that will show it, but I really don't want to place him in a situation where he might have to deal with that. I have yet to tell my roommates, as they had already left when my mom asked, and I don't want to ruin their event or have this conversation over text. I'm very tempted to pay out all the reasons it would be a bad idea for them, so they agree that we can't do it, so I'm not the but I don't like the idea of manipulating them. My mom said that my dad probably won't accept the offer, but I'm not sure I can make the offer. Also, hotels are not an option due to the fact none of us have the money for them, and my dad will likely be paying off this trip for a while. I honestly feel like either way I'm screwed. So am I the asshole? Even another relevant comment. Delete. This sounds way too big for Reddit to solve. OOP. Unfortunately, Reddit is my only solution cause I have no one to talk to about this situation. Update 4. Am I the asshole for not sending my dad a happy birthday text? October 6, 2023. Posted 4 months later. So yesterday was my dad's birthday. I'm 60. I, be 20, have been pretty much no contact with him since my last post about him, only really seeing him here and there. My dad has reached out to me once but I didn't respond. Never once has he apologized for what he has done. For the past week I had been debating if I should send him the above text. No matter what I decided I wasn't going to get him anything after all the money he took from me. Then on Wednesday my phone got stolen. I spent most of Wednesday and yesterday trying to find it and come up with solutions so that I can do all the things I need to do. I thought that was the answer to texting my dad. Yesterday I got a new phone and was talking to my mom. She texts me that I need to send my dad a text. She always reminds me to send birthday and holiday texts as I'm notorious for forgetting to. I said I will later as I still hadn't decided if I was going to. She then told me that she gave my dad $20 for me. I was shocked. She said all my siblings agreed to send him $20 for a hotel room. We all know he will probably gamble it away. I had never agreed due to my stolen phone. I was pretty much out of contact, but I had still talked to her through my roommates. She also could have waited and asked if I was okay with it, which I would have said no. I don't think my mom will ask for the 20, she just seemed to do it in my name. Regardless, I was pissed. So I didn't text my dad because I wanted to make sure he was aware that I haven't forgiven him and that we don't have a relationship anymore. I also did it to spite my mom for putting my name on a gift I never agreed to. I was so sure of it yesterday, but now I think I might have just been petty. My dad is trying to force my uncontrollable stepsister on my trip, so I cut him off. I, 17F, am graduating and my friends and I have already planned a trip to a cabin for the summer before we start college. I have been a babysitter since I was 13, so I have saved up a considerable amount of money. When I was 15, my dad got remarried about a year and a half after my mom passed away. My dad's wife had a 13-year-old daughter, and as soon as we moved in together they started to push her off on me and force us to do everything together. I don't like my stepsister. She's always throwing tantrums if she doesn't get what she wants. She's spoiled to the point that at my 16th birthday she got her own special cake so she wouldn't feel left out. And she also blew out the candles on my cake, and when I complained my dad told me it's time to grow up, being a sister is about sharing things. I told him I didn't have a sister, and I guess she overheard and she went on a rampage. The party was ruined. I distanced myself more from them after that. I'm forced to either take her with me to places or stay home with her if I can't take her, or my dad or dad's wife can't watch her or don't want to deal with her. Imagine everything that I said she does with my dad and his wife to a 17-year-old me. I was forced to take her bowling with me and she would not stop trying to dig her hands in the part where the balls come out, and she tried running down the lane, so I had to take her home and my night was ruined. This happens a lot, but they don't care. I have tried to keep this trip a secret from her, but when I was in my room on the phone talking about it over pizza and music, I found out she snuck in and hid in the closet and was eavesdropping. She bursted out asking if she could come, and I told her no and to get out. She started stomping her feet and she ran out. My friends begged me to not invite her. My dad called me downstairs and asked if she could go because she could use a vacation, and I told him I'm not taking her. They can take her on a vacation, but I'm not watching her for almost 3 weeks alone. My dad's wife called me selfish and that my dad was paying for a portion of it anyway, and if Lily doesn't go then I don't get to go. I told her she doesn't get a say in any of this. She's not my mom, and to stop forcing her child on me when she created what she is. Lily starts yelling at me about not being a big sister and I don't want to spend time with her. I snap and tell her I don't. She ran away crying, and my dad said he won't pay for the rest of my trip if I don't take her. So I told him if he does that I will not be talking to him anymore, nor will I forgive him for it. He said I'm being dramatic and she isn't bad. So I grabbed a bag and went to my aunt's house, my mom's sister, and told her what happened, and she said she would put up what he took away, and when I go to college, I can stay with her. I told my dad what I was doing and he blew up at me and said I was being a brat and they're my family now and not my aunt. As far as I know, she does not have any disabilities. She's been to doctors and therapy. She's just insanely spoiled, and that's how she's always gotten her way when told no. The first time I met her everyone agreed on Mexican except her, and she was yelling in the car for 10 minutes before she calmed down by her mom appeasing her. Then she goes back on her phone texting. If she does, then that explains why she acts that way, and I can take it that she can't help it, but I still shouldn't be forced to watch her 24/7 relevant comments. Commenter, your aunt is acting more of a family than your dad. I agree. See if you can live with your aunt now. Are you dependent on your dad for college? OOP. I am not. My mom left me money for 2 years. I decided to do an RN program and then go back once I work and save up more money. Commenter, if you are being truthful about Lily's behaviors, it sounds like she has some sort of emotional or intellectual impairment. Has she had a formal diagnosis? OOP, no, she is just extremely spoiled and acts like this to get her way. She knows she just has to cry a bit and stomp around and they'll give in. To another commenter, she does not have any mental problems. She's just spoiled. She's been to doctors and therapy. To a deleted and downvoted comment, I don't have nor did I want a sister. It's not even like they tried to slowly bring us together, they forced her on me. She constantly throws tantrums, so if any small thing is about me, she needs to be the center of attention. She may be a child, but she is not my child, and I shouldn't have had to become a parent because of my dad's wife's lack of parenting. Commenter, how far away from 18 are you? I would slowly start moving important things to your aunt's house and then move in the day you turn 18. Make sure you let your school know not to contact your dad anymore and that you are living with your aunt. Oopie, I turn 18 in September. I have read the comments and I'm making lists of everything I need to get and put at my aunt's house. On being the bigger person, I don't have to be a bigger person. I'm tired of being neglected and having her forced on me. I'm going on this trip without her, and if that ends up with me not talking to my dad anymore, so be it, he's the adult and parent here. Update post, August 30th, 2024, almost 6 months later. I know a lot of people wanted an update to my last post, but I can't post a link so you can go to my profile to see it. The trip happened and I did not end up taking her like I said I wasn't. From the time that I posted that up until the time that I left, the household was very tense and awkward. I was not speaking to any of them. The only person I had to confide in and talk to my aunt, and I'm so grateful for her. My dad still thought that I was going to bring her on the trip, and I kept telling him that I'm not watching her and she is not coming with me. The morning of the trip we left at like 6 in the morning when he called me. I was already about 5 hours out, so he couldn't do anything. When I got back, it was a lot of yelling and crying from me and my dad and his wife. She said that I left them in a tough position and they had to stay home because they couldn't get anyone to watch Lily. My dad and I had a serious talk for hours and he agreed that maybe we need to separate so we can work on our relationship. Which hurt me because I would have liked for him to tell me I can stay in my own home while we do it. But I did end up going to my aunt's house with no issues. My dad and I started family therapy with just the two of us. His wife was pretty upset. He was actually listening to me and was seeing where I was coming from. Right when we were getting good and building a better relationship, I came over for dinner and he asked if we could integrate his wife and Lily into therapy, and I told him that I had no interest in having a relationship with them. She called me a selfish C******, and that I need to be grateful that she let me stay with them after she moved in. I waited for my dad to correct her and he was pretty much silent, so I left and I haven't talked to him in almost a month. He keeps showing me that he will not be on my side. So, to wrap things up, the cabin trip was so much fun. I have never felt so free from a burden. The trip was in June and we were there for almost a month. We extended it. When I was packing for school, my dad came to visit and I guess his wife called and he had to lie about where he was because I guess she didn't want him to see me. So I told him, we don't need to have contact right now or continue therapy because it's clear which part of his family he cares more about. I don't know what's going to become of my dad and right now I don't care. I'm focused on school and studying to become a nurse. I don't want any negativity to ruin this experience, but I'd be lying if I said it doesn't hurt that I don't have a parent to experience this with, but my aunt says she is my surrogate mom and to share all my worries and success with her. I am currently in my first week of college and the amount of freedom I feel here is also so new. I am a little overwhelmed, but I am in an honors club. I also am in a creative writing book club and the friends I have made are so amazing. I am currently living on campus and I have never been better mentally. I am getting separate therapy to deal with my mom's death because that was never offered to me by my dad. My aunt has truly become a mother figure to me. Being 2 states away from her is really hard, but I can't wait for weekend visits and holiday visits. Also, another thing is that I'm going to be a godmother. My aunt was told at 22 that she would never be able to have kids and she is currently 4 months pregnant, and I'm so excited because if anybody is going to be a good mother, I know it's going to be her. When she came to visit and tell me I think she saw, I was a little worried. I told her I'm so excited and happy for her and nothing will change that, but she's the only family I have right now and don't want to get left behind like I did at home, and we cried and she promised me that she was filling in for my mom and she will be there for the rest of my life, whether I like it or not. I am planning the baby shower and I can't wait for the baby to be here. But yeah, that's it. Thank all for checking up on me and giving me encouraging words. Relevant comments. Commenter: I just don't understand how your dad doesn't see that Lily is a massive problem if they have to hire a babysitter at her age or being 15. And they were stuck at home with her as a result. OOP, he doesn't want to see it, or he does and cares more about keeping his wife happy. Commenter: also, what do you write about in this writers club? OOP, bring in work you have written and share it. Write flash fiction from the same prompt. Write poems, watch videos or lectures about writing techniques, talk about writing contests or places to submit stories. We're talking about incorporating improv so we can be creative that way with our stories. Commenter: downvoted. I feel like you should have set some better boundaries instead of just giving up. You need to lay it out for him. Do you really think she's good for your life if she's keeping you away from your daughter? Are you really a man and a father? If you're going to let a woman dictate what you can and can't do, I would tell him straight up, you don't have the luxury of giving up because you made me. So I would appreciate if you get a goddamn backbone and start acting like it. OP. That's fair and I respect your opinion, but it's not my job to try and fix anything or set boundaries anymore. We did talk about it in therapy and he still tried to integrate them into the sessions when I have expressed hundreds of times I do not want that, so I'm done trying. I'm the child in this situation. My stepdaughter helped my husband hide his affair, so I took her college fund. Now they're begging me to forgive them. Hello Reddit. I need your aid right now since I'm in a difficult situation with my stepdaughter and don't know what to do. For reference, I, 42F, have spent 15 years with my soon-to-be ex-husband David, 44M. We've been married for 10 of those 15 years, and I loved him more than anybody else in the world. He has a daughter, Stacy, 17F, from a prior relationship. He and Stacy's mother were never married. They had a brief fling for a few months, but she became pregnant and opted to keep the baby. They'd split up just a few weeks before she discovered she was pregnant. They chose to maintain a friendly relationship so that they could co-parent the baby. Unfortunately, Stacy's mother died in a vehicle accident when Stacy was only 6 months old, leaving only David and his daughter. He informed me at the start of our relationship that he wasn't just searching for a wife, but also someone who would be a wonderful mother to Stacy. I was willing to do it since I adored children, and Stacy was only 2 at the time. I honestly didn't mind that he had a daughter. I was prepared to accept her as my own and raise her accordingly. I took our relationship extremely seriously from the start. After 5 years together, we decided to marry. Our relationship had ups and downs, but at the end of the day I believed he loved me as much as I loved him. I had no cause to suspect he might be cheating on me. Even a few months ago, we were discussing commemorating our 10th wedding anniversary with a family trip to some exotic location, and he was really pleased about it. People who cheat on their wives don't seem to be enthused about a family trip, so I didn't expect this. I discovered 6 days ago that he had been cheating on me with a coworker for the past 7 months. I was at work, minding my own business, when I received an email from a coworker. It contained all of the specifics of their affair. She even supplied documentation of text exchanges, phone calls, and images of them together at locations on days when he claimed he was abroad on business, but those excursions were actually romantic getaways with her, which I had known about. I was stunned when I received the email. I instantly went home, unsure what else to do. Nobody was home at the time because Stacy was out with a friend and David was working. So I examined those emails carefully again because I didn't want to have a breakdown at work. I noticed she had also included her phone number in case I wished to call her. She explained that she was doing this because she knew David would never tell me, and she believed I deserved to know the truth. David had apparently been promising her for the last 6 months that he would tell me the truth and discontinue our relationship since she was uncomfortable having an affair with a married guy. I think her conscience had kicked in, or something, but David kept promising to tell me. I even saw screenshots of him indicating he was ending our marriage to be with her. She had initially believed him, but after nearly 3 months of waiting, she decided to inform me herself. After reading that email, I reflected on it for a time before calling her because the worst had already happened. I was still in denial, so I figured speaking with her would help me realize this wasn't a cruel prank, it was actually happening. When I spoke with her, she began by apologizing and explaining that she had no intention of hurting my marriage and had simply fallen in love with David. That was why she believed I deserved to know the truth. She went on to detail how the affair began, how long it had lasted and all of the promises he had made to her, which were identical to those he had made to me at the outset of our relationship. My heart broke with each word she whispered to me. By the end of the conversation, I was certain there could be nothing more painful. But then she revealed that Stacy had been aware of everything and had been assisting him in concealing his activities. That really destroyed me since, in my opinion, I had always been Stacy's mom. I never thought of her as a stepdaughter. I had known that girl since she was 2 years old and raised her as my own. So the fact that she had also deceived me felt like the end of the world. His co-worker informed me that whenever David needed to lie to me or cover up something, Stacy would make excuses for his absence and explain why he wasn't returning my calls. In exchange for her silence, he offered her expensive gifts. That explained a lot of recent events. David had been completely indulging her, which had never happened before, but I assumed he was doing well at work, so he was buying her lovely stuff. He had also bought me a lot of jewelry and clothes, so I assumed his new practice of giving us presents was due to his success at business, but apparently not. Knowing Stacy had been a part of this and had met her father's affair partner multiple times while keeping it a secret from me devastated my heart much more than realizing David had been cheating on me. After that phone call, I decided to pack my belongings and leave the house since I did not want to be there any longer, waiting for the two of them to return home. I felt terribly betrayed and could not stop crying. I didn't want David to have the satisfaction of seeing me like that, so I packed a few items and drove to a motel outside of town. I shut off my phone since I did not want to be called. I was upset that day and ended up drinking myself to sleep in my hotel room. The next morning, I had to switch my phone back on to report ill to work. That's when I discovered I had 1,000 unanswered texts and missed calls from David and Stacy, and I didn't want to respond to any of them. I also noticed a text message from a person at the auto dealership with whom I had been discussing purchasing a new vehicle. I had been putting off making the purchase since I wanted to save more money before buying it, which was pricey. I had also been saving for our anniversary trip and Stacy's 17th birthday, intending to give her a new automobile rather than buying one for myself. When I got that SMS, I remembered how I had planned to gift Stacy a car for her birthday, which made me angry. In a fit of rage, I decided to concentrate on making myself happy without regard for anyone else. The guy from the dealership had inquired if I was still intending on buying the car, and on a whim, I went down to the dealership and purchased a sparkling new luxury car. I hadn't planned to buy it because it was well out of my price range, but I didn't have to worry about it. Since I married David 10 years ago, I've been saving for Stacy's college education. I had intended to offer her access to that account as a surprise when she announced which college she would be attending. But now that I knew what had been going on for the past few months, I didn't want to surprise anyone except myself. I took money from that account to buy the fancy car, which I then drove to our house to face David and Stacy. When I arrived, they attempted to hug me and tell me how worried they were, but I didn't let them. I instantly revealed that David's coworker had contacted me, and I now knew the whole extent of what had been going on behind my back. I was quite unhappy with both of them. They both looked shocked. David, at least, had the foresight not to say anything because he knew the game was up. Stacy tried to speak with me, stating she was only trying to look out for her father and didn't know what to do. She burst into tears, claiming she was confused because she loved us both equally and wanted us to be happy, but I didn't believe her. I assumed she was mature enough to understand what was good and wrong, and she purposefully chose to do the opposite. Furthermore, I'm very sure the presents she was receiving from her father helped her keep quiet about the whole affair. I told her I didn't believe a word she was saying. I was so furious off and upset that I announced my departure from David. He should have seen it coming, because I doubt anyone in my position would have stayed after learning something like this. I informed Stacy that, more than David, I was disappointed in her. Husbands cheat all the time, and this isn't the first or last time a woman will experience it. But I'd always expected Stacy to have my back. Despite the fact that we were not blood relatives, I had never considered her to be my stepdaughter. I had loved her as much as my own, if not more. Her deception and betrayal affected me more than anything her father did. So I determined that the education fund I had been saving for her over the years was no longer something she deserved. I was leaving them both behind. It was difficult for me to say that, and I almost cried up because this had been my family for the last 15 years. But after telling her, I walked out without giving them the opportunity to explain and returned to the hotel. They kept phoning, but I refused to stop. They even followed me out, and I'm fairly certain they saw the new automobile I purchased. I drove away as fast as I could. After that, I wanted to block them, but I couldn't since I was still emotionally processing everything. They've been attempting to contact me for the past 5 days, texting virtually every hour and calling me, but I'm at a loss for words. So I just read all of their messages and left it at that. David had been trying to persuade me to forgive him for the first several days, but when he saw it was fruitless, he began apologizing and admitting that I deserved better. However, he began pleading with me to reconsider what I was doing to Stacy, stating she was only a child and did not deserve to suffer as a result of his acts. Stacy has also texted me along the same lines, confessing her mistake and requesting a second chance. She says she has always thought of me as her mother and is deeply sorry for everything. I had been ignoring everything, but yesterday I received a text from David saying he was tired of apologizing without getting a response. He demanded to know if I had any intention of returning to the family. That irritated me because he was the one who made a mistake, and he had no right to be angry with me. I instantly texted him back, claiming that I had already spoken with a lawyer and filed for divorce, which was false. I was still processing things and hadn't had the opportunity to consult with a lawyer yet, but he didn't need to know that. He didn't respond for about an hour, and when he did, he sent me a lengthy message accusing me of being selfish and the villain for responding in this manner. He stated he was fine with me filing for divorce and leaving him, but the fact that I chose to leave Stacy behind demonstrated how selfish I was. He told me that Stacy had been upset since I left, and that my unwillingness to allow her access to the college monies I had been accumulating for her had hurt her very hard. He was aware of the college fund, but had not bothered to save enough money for her tuition because he trusted me to handle it. I remember mentioning the college fund to him countless times. He knew I had been saving cash to surprise Stacy, but I had no idea he had not saved anything for her school. Now that Stacy is considering going to college out of state, which would be even more expensive, it's unclear whether she will be able to attend her preferred college. David believes I am the evil guy for taking away the college fund and shoving it in her face. He doesn't understand why I won't let her have access to the money since I've always planned to give it to her. To him, it appears like I am using this one error to be selfish, especially since he saw my new automobile. He believes I should reconsider. Now I am torn on what to do. According to his words, I don't feel comfortable taking things away from a child only to teach them a lesson or punish them. I've never been that type of parent and I don't want to start now. However, Stacy is not quite a child. She realized what she was doing was wrong. I do not know. I feel like she's terribly disappointed me and perhaps what I'm doing isn't that bad. I'm just really perplexed. Is it wrong of me to tell my stepdaughter that I would no longer fund her college tuition after discovering she helped my husband cover up his affair? Update 1. Hello, I apologize for not being able to provide you with an update during the last 2 weeks. It was only that I had been quite busy with job and dealing with my lawyer, so there was a lot on my plate. But now I've got some time. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who commented on my initial article and gave me so much love and support. I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. Knowing that there were people who supported me, even if they were complete strangers, made things much simpler to live with. So when David texted me and I posted, I felt I didn't need to entertain any of it. Most of the comments on my article stated the same thing. I needed to block him and file for divorce as soon as possible so I could finally get him out of my life. And this is exactly what I did. Within the next several days I had consulted with a lawyer and filed for divorce. I also concluded I didn't owe Stacy anything. Even if I were her biological parent, I would not have given her money to go her dream college. She should have considered these things before assisting her father in cheating on me. You cannot stab me in the back and expect me to turn around and grin. I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how old or who you are. That's simply not how this works. David's allegation that Stacy was being punished for what he did was incorrect. She was being punished for what she had done, and I made it abundantly obvious when I last met with them in person. I declined to give her the college fund since she opted not to inform me about her father's infidelity. That is the reason, and I believe I'm being fair. If they want to be angry about it, they are free to do so, but I will not tolerate it, which is why I blocked them. They now have absolutely no access to me. They are still attempting to reach me by calling from different numbers, messaging from new numbers, and emailing me from fictitious addresses. It doesn't matter, because all I do is read the texts and emails while ignoring everything else. Update 2. I eventually found out what was going to happen with the divorce, and happily, David is not opposing anything. I hope we can have a calm and amicable divorce. It's been about 3 weeks since I discovered he was cheating on me, and my life has drastically changed. I had been living at a motel until last week, but it was becoming too expensive. Even though I had enough money to remain for a few more weeks or months, I opted not to waste it. So I moved in with a buddy, who has graciously allowed me to stay until I can get my own apartment. I've also begun to contemplate therapy for myself after a buddy, who is a licensed professional, told me it would benefit me in the long term. I am thinking about it. Perhaps the most significant change was that I quit my job. It is a tremendous issue because I have been working non-stop for almost 20 years. I began working immediately after graduating from college, and I had previously worked part-time. But I believe I need a break right now. I've accumulated enough money over the last 10 years to take a few months off, reorganize my life and launch my own business. That had always been the plan, but I decided to put it off until Stacy left for college so I wouldn't have to worry about money. Now that no one is holding me back, I can do whatever I want. So there's the plan. I'm going to spend these months developing a business model, looking for investors, and all that jazz. I'm actually looking forward to the future, even though I'm still sad about everything that has happened. I have also spoken with my parents about the divorce. I hadn't told them previously since I was still processing everything, but after speaking with them, I posted an announcement on social media. I did not explain why, I simply stated that I was getting divorced. My close friends and family are already aware of what is going on, and they are the only people I care about. So what others say is irrelevant. Life has been complicated for the past few weeks, but now that the divorce proceedings have begun and we will meet with a mediator in the coming days, I'm hoping to be able to put this behind me and finally move on. Update 3. Hello, David and I are planning to meet with the mediator tomorrow. It's strange knowing that I'll have to face him after nearly a month of no communication. As if I wasn't apprehensive and concerned enough before the meeting, Stacy sent me an email only half an hour ago. She stopped contacting me after 2.5 weeks, and I assumed she was no longer interested in chatting with me. I assumed this email was about how she intended to pay for her college fees, but to my amazement, she texted me a thorough apology, and this time it appeared sincere. She didn't say anything about the finances. Stacy stated she was really sorry for what she had done, confessing she had been selfish and hadn't considered how I would feel if I found out the truth. She realized she had crushed my heart much more than David had and wondered if she would ever be able to put things right with me. She did, however, mean it when she stated she had always looked up to me as a mother and truly loved me. She also stated that she was aware that David's presents were manipulative and that his affair partner had made it appear as if she was doing it on her own. However, she argued that it was due to manipulation rather than a desire to keep secrets from me. I'm not sure what to trust. Maybe she was manipulated, which is why she didn't say anything. She insisted on being confused, caught between knowing her father was wrong but not wanting to oppose him. In doing so, she betrayed me and had been conflicted for months. I want to believe her, I truly do, but with everything that has transpired I'm simply not sure. I was already uneasy and twitchy, but after receiving the email, I feel much strange about everything. I miss her dearly, as I do David, but I know I need to learn how to live life on my own. I've learned the hard way that I can't simply trust people, even my closest ones. I guess I'll have to stick to the no contact rule for now. I also acquired a new apartment and moved in. I've been living by myself for the past few weeks and it's been enjoyable. My friends and relatives pay me visits almost every other day to check on my well-being, which I believe is quite nice of them. I don't feel lonely because I'm usually with someone. However, I know these visits will not be as regular as they are today. I'm still working on accepting the idea that I'm a single lady. I've also started treatment. It will take some time for me to absorb and process everything that has transpired, but I am confident I will get there. I haven't communicated with David since our last mediation session, and while it hasn't been easy, it has been essential. In my last report, I mentioned Stacy's email in which she claimed to have been influenced. At the time, I couldn't bring myself to trust her because everything was so new. But just last week, I decided to respond to her email. She had been sending me additional emails about her life. It felt like a one-way street. She'd keep reaching out, and I'd shut her out. But every time she emailed me, my heart would shatter and I'd cry, even if nothing bad was occurring in her life. I genuinely missed her. So I contacted her and told her I missed her. There's nothing else. I still maintain that she will not receive the college fund, but she stated that she didn't mind and didn't deserve it anyhow. She informed me she chose a college close to home over her chosen school because she did not want to burden her father with student loans. Even if she had asked him to co-sign, he would have refused. He had made that obvious. Stacy noted that they will have to make do with the money they have, and that while David will assist as much as he can, she will also need to contribute by earning her way through college. She stated she was cool with it, or so she claimed. We've been emailing back and forth, and I informed her that I'd like to repair our friendship, but I need time. After everything that has transpired, I simply cannot digest it all right now. She understands and tells me to take as much time as I need, knowing she has abused my confidence. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm hoping for the best. Fingers crossed. My daughter left me for her stepmom. Years later, she begs me to pay for her costly wedding because I'm doing better than her mom. To start with, I am honestly grateful that my daughter, Tara, has a great relationship with her stepmother, Danny. To give some context, my husband Mark and I did not have a good relationship. We fell in love quite young and got married because we thought that was the right thing to do. I got pregnant with Tara, and although Mark tried to be a good father, he was also extremely lazy. He never helped me with Tara in any way. I was the one who fed her, changed her diapers, stayed awake the whole night until she could sleep, bathed her, and took her for walks. Mark was the fun parent who would just come home and spend an hour with the baby. During that 1 hour, I would be cooking his meals or cleaning up the kitchen. Mark would then have his dinner and go into his den to play video games. If I ever asked him to help me around the house or with Tara, he would tell me that this was a woman's job and that was how God intended it. This would lead to us having disagreements, where I would plead with him to help me out because I was too exhausted, but he would refuse point blank. One time, I was too sick to even move around, so I asked him to please look after Tara so I could take some rest and recover. He started an argument with me, calling me lazy and saying how his mother never asked his father for help. It really angered me because he was as much Tara's parent as I was, yet he never lifted a finger. I yelled at him that if he didn't help out, I would pack my bags and leave him. This rattled him a bit, so he grumbled but eventually took a leave of absence to take care of Tara so I could sleep for a few hours. As my maternity leave was coming to an end, I asked my mother if she could babysit Tara during my working hours, and she graciously accepted. Mark's mother never even offered to help, but I was fine with it. Mark didn't like that I was going back to work since he had been trying to get me to be a stay-at-home wife for a long time, but I always refused. Looking back, I am thankful that I never left my job, since Mark lost his job when his company downsized. This was a shock to him as well as the other employees who were let go. When he told me, I wanted to panic too because we needed the money for household expenses and taking care of Tara. However, I knew if I panicked, he would get even more anxious, so I assured him that I would bear all the expenses around the house until he could get back on his feet. Since he did not have a job, I asked him to look after Tara so my mother could get a break from the babysitting duties. At first, Mark didn't want to, but eventually, he agreed. Every day, I would come back home to find Mark sitting in the same spot on the sofa, playing video games with Tara playing on the floor nearby. Basic needs like meals and baths were neglected, and I often returned home to find Tara hungry and unkempt. This would obviously make me angry because, on one hand, I had no choice but to work hard to single-handedly support my family, and on the other hand, I felt guilty that my daughter was being neglected. I remember that during this time, we would fight a lot more, with Mark saying how he was trying to find a job, yet he never went for any interviews. 6 months after spending his days at home, Mark told me he wanted to take up a business course. He had always wanted to start a business, but I just didn't think it was the right time, as I wanted him to find a stable job for the time being. However, he had apparently already discussed it with his parents, who were ready to pay for his college fees. I was the last one he informed, as if I meant nothing to him as a partner. I think this should have been my time to leave, but like a fool who refuses to quit, I stayed. While I worked and looked after Tara, Mark went back to study. Eventually, he graduated and started his own business. It was doing well, so he started hiring people under him. This is how Danny came into his life. She was this young, perky girl straight out of college and was hired to be his personal assistant. Danny and Mark would spend hours together, but I never thought anything of it. The thought of him cheating never even crossed my mind. However, Mark started introducing Tara to Danny every time he took her to his office and insisted on Tara and Danny spending time together. This made me a bit suspicious. I asked Mark outright if there was something between him and her, but he denied vehemently, telling me that I was overthinking. I dropped it until one of my friends called me one day and told me she saw Danny and Mark sitting in a cafe holding hands. She had no idea who Danny was, but from her description of the woman sitting with Mark, I knew it had to be Danny. I was not only embarrassed that my husband was cheating, but I also knew that everyone would now find out about it. That evening, I insisted on Mark inviting Danny for dinner, telling him how I should know her since she worked for him. He had no idea that I now had proof of his discretions. During dinner, I told him directly that I was done with them sneaking behind my back and that I knew everything. Mark froze, and Danny went pale as a sheet. I told her that I didn't care if she was sleeping with my husband because, at this point, no one could save our marriage. Danny and Mark looked at each other, and she finally confessed that she was in love with Mark. She went on to say that she didn't mean for this to happen and that she was sorry for everything. However, Mark asked me why I had invited Danny if I already knew everything, and he started telling me how I had no right to embarrass them. He told me how he was not going to sit there and apologize since I was the one who had failed at our marriage first. I scoffed as he went on to blame me, saying how I should have tried to keep him satisfied, but I never did because I was always too busy trying to be independent. I shook my head and reminded him how my work put food on the table while he was jobless and when he was off going to study. Mark argued that I could have left my job after his business was doing well, but I told him that I couldn't take any chances and that we both needed to have jobs to bring in the income necessary for our future. I was so pissed at this man for trying to weasel his way out of this fiasco that I went on to tell him how I had never neglected him or Tara and always did all the house chores regardless of my job, so he had no right to blame me. He kept trying to blame me, but I ignored him. I looked at Danny and mouthed good luck, before excusing myself from the table. I knew exactly what I had to do now. In some way, Mark was freed from the burden of finding an excuse to divorce him. Yes, I used to be in love with him at one point, but since Tara, we had just become roommates living in the same house. I was the one doing the bulk of the work around the house anyway, so I had nothing to lose by leaving him. I packed my bags along with Tara's, while Mark kept asking what I was doing. I informed him that I was leaving and would be sending him divorce papers soon. He tried to argue, saying that I was being too cold and that we should take a beat to think about it, but I didn't think there was anything left to think about anymore. I simply had enough and went to stay with my parents for the time being. If you're wondering if his parents ever reached out to me and comforted me, then you're wrong. They never said anything to my ex for breaking up the family. It was only later that I found out the reason why. You see, Danny was not just young. She also came from a wealthy family, and by marrying her, Mark would be securing his money back. Honestly, I did not care about all that. My goal was simply to ensure that Mark and I could be good co-parents for the sake of Tara. From my first impression, Danny didn't seem like a bad person, so I hoped that she could be a good step-parent for my daughter as well. During the divorce, I took half of my husband's assets, which was a lot since his business was making 6 figures. I bought a place for myself and Tara to live in. Mark and I had shared custody, so while I got Tara from Monday to Friday, he got her from Friday evening until Monday morning, when he would drop her off at school. After our divorce, he immediately let Danny move in with him. Tara would come back home and tell me how Danny and Mark would take her to expensive restaurants for dinner or to amusement parks. She would always be really excited to meet them during the weekend. In the beginning, I didn't notice anything. However, my daughter started detaching herself from me more and more. I was the parent who made her finish her homework or taught her to do chores around the house, just basic things like washing her own dishes or folding her laundry, and she didn't like that. I was the one who made her eat healthy food and refused to order from McDonald's every day. She would always insist on me buying her expensive gifts, which I didn't think were appropriate for a kid. Mark, on the other hand, was the fun parent who took her everywhere, and she would spend her weekends doing absolutely nothing except watching TV or eating good food. She would often tell me how chill they were, and if I didn't listen to her, she would say hurtful things like she wished she lived with them only. This would break my heart, but she was a kid, so I would let it slide. When Tara was 12, Danny got pregnant with twins. Tara was really anxious during this time and would constantly ask me if Mark would still love her. I had to reassure her that her father would love her no matter what. Her anxiety got so bad that I had to talk to Mark about it. In the end, he did talk to Tara and reassured her that nothing would change between them. However, Tara informed him that she wanted to spend more time with him, and he agreed. Hence, she started going to his place on Wednesday evenings instead of Fridays. Tara had her own room in the house until then, but since the twins were coming, Mark told her that they would renovate the basement for her while her bedroom would turn into the twins' room. Tara agreed. This all happened without my knowledge because at this point, my daughter was hardly communicating with me. She was so focused on being a part of Mark's family that she would hardly tell me anything going on in her life. After the twins were born, Mark informed me that for the next 2 months, Danny didn't want Tara to come over since she wanted to take care of the babies and give her 100% attention to them. I yelled at him that this would seriously hurt his daughter and make her question if he even loved her, but he argued back that he needed to be there for Danny and the twins and they were his first priority. When I broke the news to Tara, she started to cry and kept asking why Danny didn't want her anymore. I did my best to reassure her as much as I could. After a month, when Mark came to pick her up, Tara was beside herself with joy. She later told me how adorable the twins were and how beautiful her room was in the basement. After seeing the pictures of her new room, I did agree that it was pretty. Even though it irked me a bit that she had agreed to give up her room. After seeing the pictures of her new room, I did agree that it was pretty, even though it irked me a bit that she had agreed to give up her bedroom for the twins. However, if my daughter was happy, then I was happy too. As days went on, Tara would find excuses to spend more and more days with her father. She would tell me how she loved babysitting the twins since Danny sometimes needed a break. This really pissed me off, so I forbade Mark from using his daughter as a stand-in babysitter. He argued that this was how children bond, but I told him that his children could bond without Tara changing their diapers and feeding them with a bottle, which was not a job for a teenager. After some back and forth, he agreed. However, Tara yelled at me when she found out. She told me that Danny had informed her that I had complained to Mark about it. Tara said she wanted to do this for the twins, but I knew my daughter was desperately trying to fit in or be loved by Mark and Danny by doing whatever they wanted. I assured her that I had no ill intentions and that I wanted her to enjoy her teenage years. What Mark and Danny were doing was basically parentifying her, but she didn't care. This was the start of Tara always choosing Danny over me. I never disliked Danny, but it would hurt every time my own daughter compared me to her stepmother in every way. Teenagers can be harsh, and Tara was no different. She also started getting meaner and nastier towards me. For example, I remember once after work, I came home and was sitting watching TV while eating ice cream. When Tara came out of her room, she commented on how I was becoming a fat cow. It really took me by surprise, especially since I wasn't even fat. When I asked her why she said such a thing, Tara told me that Danny had taught her gluten makes people fat and that she wasn't allowed to eat gluten at Mark and Danny's place. I informed her that while that might be true for some, gluten is not inherently bad, and she had no right to body shame someone just because she didn't prefer eating it. As more days passed, Tara became an entirely different person. In every other conversation, she would bring up how Danny did this or that, and it essentially felt like she was turning into a mini Danny herself. She would refuse to go anywhere with me when the sun was out, telling me she didn't want to become tan. She insisted on skipping breakfast so she could lose a few extra pounds to fit into a bikini that Danny had bought one size smaller. She weighed herself every day and noted her weight in a diary. She would tell me how Danny had told her she had the potential to take part in beauty pageants if she stuck to this routine. I was so pissed when I found out about this. Up until that point, I had never had a conversation with Danny, but I decided enough was enough and finally reached out to her. However, Danny didn't see any issues with my daughter's behavior. She told me how she had simply suggested that Tara take part in a beauty pageant and that it wasn't her fault if Tara had taken it to heart. I pointed out to her how Tara clearly saw her as a second parent, so she should be more careful with her words. Danny responded that I should push my daughter to be the best version of herself instead of trying to bring her down. I was really taken aback by her words and asked her to keep her weird ideologies to herself. Later, Mark called to yell at me about how I shouldn't talk to his wife that way. When I informed him of everything, he told me that he agreed with Danny and that Tara shouldn't take Danny's advice or suggestions to such an extreme. I yelled back at him to open his eyes because clearly, Tara was being influenced, but my ex-husband didn't care enough. I did try to talk with Tara and tell her how she should enjoy her teenage years as much as she could without worrying about trivial things like weight and getting tanned, but Tara remained steadfast in her resolve. She began closing herself off from me, shutting down any attempts at open communication. It was a heartbreaking realization, watching my daughter slip further away with each passing day. She also stopped coming to me for any decisions or general life situations. For example, if her school was taking her on a trip, she would wait to visit her father so he could sign the form for her, even though I never had any problem with her going. It was as if she didn't see any real importance in me being part of her life. I found myself relegated to the sidelines, a mere spectator in her life. As a result, I became quite depressed, but during this time, I met a man who changed everything in my life. Henry and I met when I was at the lowest point. When we started dating, he saw how much Tara's behavior was affecting me and reassured me that every teenager goes through a rebellious phase. However, things just got worse and worse. Tara and I would get into constant fights, either about her falling grades or not submitting her assignments on time. This is when Tara started blaming me for everything. She would also constantly comment on how she understood why Mark left me for Danny. This was a sore topic for me, and it broke my heart every time she said it. I hate to admit it, but I started to pull away from my daughter bit by bit. When Tara turned 18 and it was time for her to go to college, she and Mark came to me to discuss something important. I thought it was about the college fees, and I was ready to tell Mark that I would pay half of her tuition. But instead, Mark informed me that Tara wanted me to give up my parental rights. I sat there, shocked, as Tara told me she had been thinking about this for a long time and wanted Danny to officially adopt her. I was so taken aback that, at first, I thought it was just a bad dream. Tara pleaded with me, saying she loved Danny more than me and wanted her to be her real mommy. I asked her to explain her reasons, hoping to dissuade her, but Tara spoke earnestly about how she felt a stronger bond with Danny and admired her stepmother's qualities and accomplishments. She also expressed that by becoming Danny's legal child, she would be part of her inheritance, something Danny's parents had promised her. As Tara poured her heart out, I struggled to contain my emotions. It felt like my world was crumbling, as though everything I had worked so hard for was slipping through my fingers. The realization that my daughter no longer saw me as her mother was a devastating blow, one that left me reeling with a profound sense of loss. Tara continued to plead, saying she had always seen Danny as her real mother, and I shouldn't fight this. Mark chimed in, agreeing with Tara and telling me I shouldn't take it personally and should respect her wishes. For the next few weeks, I had a tough decision to make. Despite the pain coursing through me, I knew I had to consider Tara's wishes. I couldn't force her to maintain a relationship she no longer desired, nor could I deny her the opportunity to seek happiness on her own terms. My parents tried to talk to Tara, but she refused to take their calls. In the days that followed, I grappled with a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I mourned the loss of the bond I had once shared with Tara, grieving for the daughter I had known. But amidst the sorrow, I also felt a sense of resignation, a quiet acceptance of the inevitable. I would constantly cry in front of Henry, who was the only one by my side. Even he felt what Tara was doing was unbelievably cruel. With a heavy heart, I reluctantly agreed to Tara's request, knowing it marked the end of a chapter in both our lives. I won't get into the legal details, but it took a couple of weeks. In the end, Tara and I were legally separated, and Danny proceeded with the adoption process. After that, Tara basically stopped talking to me. I can't even begin to describe how painful those days were for me. I had lived for my daughter, but watching her drift away from my life was excruciating. I have to admit, Henry was the one who kept me going. He never left my side, encouraged me to go to therapy, and moved in with me to take care of me. I even left my job, and Henry supported me completely. I was diagnosed with depression and started taking medication. Watching Henry rally behind me gave me a new reason to stay alive. Slowly but surely, I started to heal and stopped blaming myself for everything. Henry encouraged me to join his business just to keep myself busy, and I agreed. Henry was the partner I never had but truly deserved. I poured myself into my work and my relationship with Henry, finding joy in the simple pleasures life had to offer. For the last 6 years, I have worked with Henry to build his business, and he has made me an equal partner, giving me a seat at the table. We respect each other professionally as well as personally. We got married and built a good life for ourselves. Never in my wildest dreams did I think Tara, who hadn't even called me once over the last few years, would reach out to me out of the blue yesterday. Her unexpected call caught me off guard, stirring up a whirlwind of emotions I thought I had buried deep within. She asked me about my life and informed me about hers. I didn't know why she was calling, but I was glad that she remembered me after all this time. At the end of the day, regardless of what any legal papers say, she is still my daughter, and I will always continue to love her, no matter how much she hurt me. I thought she had matured and wanted to rekindle a relationship with me. However, the conversation shifted to her upcoming wedding. I was surprised to learn that my baby girl was now getting married, and I couldn't contain my emotions. Tara then informed me that the reason she had called was because she wanted me to contribute to her wedding expenses. I was taken aback as she went on to tell me how Mark didn't have much money to offer since his business had been affected during COVID and never really recovered, and how Danny had refused to help much with the wedding because she wanted to save money for her twins. Tara went on to tell me how she knew I was doing well now that I was married to Henry, as she would occasionally stalk me on social media. She wanted me to pay for her wedding since she felt I owed her. All my emotions of joy and excitement quickly turned to shock and disbelief. I could not believe what Tara was saying. She was acting extremely entitled, despite having been the one to leave me behind. I politely told her that while I was happy she wanted to reconnect, I wasn't going to simply forgive and forget everything that had happened in the past. I reminded her how she had wanted me to give up my parental rights so Danny could adopt her, and how she had considered Danny to be her real mother, so I didn't see why she needed my help now. Tara argued that I was still her biological mother and said it wasn't fair that I had so much money now. She insisted that giving her a few $1,000s for the wedding wouldn't be a big deal. I made it clear to her that while I wished her happiness, I couldn't just write a blank check for her wedding. She got angry and called me a few unpleasant names, blaming me for abandoning her and saying I didn't fight for her enough all those years ago. It felt like she was grasping at straws, trying to justify her actions, and the conversation wasn't going anywhere. She angrily disconnected the call. Now, I'm left wondering if I should have just helped my daughter out for her wedding, which I could easily afford. AITA for not helping my daughter. Update 1. I never expected this post to blow up so quickly. In a matter of days, I've had hundreds of strangers on Reddit telling me that I shouldn't under any circumstances Concede to my daughter's demands. When I posted this, I was feeling guilty because she is, after all, my daughter. But seeing all your comments about how she is basically using me has made me question my own judgments. It's very difficult as a parent to stop loving your child, even if they don't want you anymore. Tara will always be my baby, but I have to accept that she is no longer a child and has turned into an entitled adult. Mark and Danny haven't reached out to me, so I guess they have no idea that Tara is asking me for financial assistance. I won't be helping her, and I've also had a conversation with Henry about it. Update 2, I sent a message to Tara, just like some of you suggested. Dear Tara, I want to express how much I appreciate you reaching out to me and sharing updates about your life. It meant a lot to hear from you, and I'm glad to know that you're doing well. Regarding your request for financial assistance with your wedding, I want to be transparent about where I stand. While I understand your desire for support during this important time, I must respectfully decline your request. Since you never wanted me to be part of your life, I believe it's best for us to maintain the current distance between us. It's important for me to prioritize my own well-being and boundaries. I want nothing but the best for you as you embark on this new chapter, and I hope you can understand and respect my perspective. I sent this message to her this morning, and I will update if she replies. Update 3. So, it turns out she did see my message but has left me on read. I guess the majority of you were right. She never really cared and just wanted me to pay for her wedding without any questions. Henry is not happy with how Tara has treated me and has asked me to block her so she can't contact me further with any unwarranted requests. Up until this moment I was conflicted, but now I will do so. For those of you who were worried about my will, don't be. Even though Henry and I don't have children, he has nephews and nieces, so we will mostly be leaving everything to them. I appreciate all the support and advice I've received from the Reddit community. Moving forward, I will focus on my own well-being and continue to cherish the loving relationship I have with my husband.